We will get started. All right, this is Town Council Meeting 09-26. It is Tuesday, May 5th, 2026 at 6:05 p.m. We are at the Town Council Chambers, 30 Main Street in Freeport. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Next up, we will see who is here. Councillor Lawrence.
I am here.
Councillor Pilch.
Here.
Councillor Brown.
Present.
Councillor Smith.
Present.
Councillor Benoit is here. Councillor Pillsbury is late, and Councillor Sparta is excused this evening. No. Our next order of business is to waive reading and accept the April 21st meeting minutes as printed.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the minutes? All those in favor? Aye. All right, next we have information exchange, which is just an opportunity for town councilors to share information about town-related interactions and engagement, including updates from liaison activities and council committee meetings. I can go first. Yesterday, the vice chair and I had our monthly coffee with council. It was actually pretty robust attendance. We had folks coming in to talk about the budget. We had a gentleman come in who was commenting on the conditions of Marquee Road off of Pleasant Hill, and we directed him to speak with Earl. We also had someone who was sharing concerns about parking and access at Sales Fields from the Freeport Conservation Trust, and I connected that person with Carrie Kinney over there. Councillor Brown.
I'm going to report on the Freeport Sustainability Advisory Board's last meeting, which took place on the 29th of April. A new invasives working group has been formed to begin to tackle this difficult area. They will be using an online GIS-based data management system to track and manage invasive species. It's my understanding that this group is interested in making some real progress in the fight against invasives. You can expect a lecture series this coming fall, but they are just getting organized right now. But I think they are hoping to make a big difference. The electric tool lending library is back in an expanded form, and any inquiry you may have and registration takes place at the library using your library card. Compost bins and rain barrels are available at the transfer station. Tomorrow evening, I wanted to announce a offering by a partnership between Freeport Sustainability Advisory and Freeport Can. They're offering a program at the library called Waste Wise Freeport Forum and Green Resource Fair. The doors are open at 5:30, and the program will focus on practical solutions for lowering waste-related costs for residents. There'll be free pizza. You'll be able to obtain a free recycling guide that answers your questions as, can I recycle number 3? Featured speakers will include representatives from Eco Maine, Freeport Community Services, AgriCycle, Natural Resources Council of Maine, as well as their sponsors, the Freeport Can and Sustainability Advisory Board speakers. For more information, you can go on Freeport Can website. The committee is actively working on the next goal recommendations to the Town Council from the Climate Action Plan. So that's my report.
Thank you. Anything else from councilors?
I'll just say that, yeah, Freeport Players has their annual murder mystery dinner night, and you all lose because they're all sold out. So, but it's a lot of fun. It's this weekend, Friday and Saturday at the the church downtown.
Great. Wonderful.
But it's all sold out, so unfortunately.
Well, next year, give us more of a heads up, and
It's been sold out for a while, but
that sounds fun. I had a family member call me today on behalf of an individual who has a student shellfish license. Because of some family extenuating circumstances, they missed the renewal. And the request is, the precedent has been for student licenses that they come in front of the council and kind of ask for forgiveness, more or less. But given sort of the conversation I had with the family member, I'm here kind of on that behalf and hoping that we can allow this renewal. After speaking with Sophie, this has happened once before, where truly, if the council gives permission, that's what our process says needs to happen. She can go ahead and do that.
Is it the same person?
No, that's a good question. It's not, no. So if I hear no concern or pushback, I think that's what you need, Sophie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Great, thank you. Any other information?
announcements, right?
Now we go to announcements, yes. All right, moving on to other announcements. I have a few. So the RSU 5 annual budget meeting for the 2026 and 2027 fiscal year is scheduled for May 13th at 6:30 at the high school. Voters from Freeport, Durham, and Pownell will review, discuss, and vote on the budget articles following the Board of Directors' adoption of the budget. Please remember, the RSU 5 budget is a large part of your annual tax bill, so please educate yourself and get involved. Absentee voting for the June 9th state primary and municipal election will begin on the week of May 11th, which is next Monday, this coming Monday. Voters may not return the RSU 5 budget validation ballot until after the May 13th annual budget meeting. Save the date. So on Sunday, June 7th, we are hosting our second annual community barbecue hosted by the town council. It's a nice time to look forward to a sunny, warm barbecue outside in June. Look for more information as the date approaches. We hope to see you there. Again, that will be Sunday, June 7th from noon to 2 p.m. at Memorial Park. As Public Works completes the beautification project at Town Hall, the front doors and front sidewalk access area, including Grove Street, will be closed to the public until late May, early June. Please use the side doors at visitor parking lot for access. Yeah. Anything else? Great.
Yeah, we'll get the information exchange.
I skipped over, I did it backwards. You were right, Chip. So we're going to now move over to, we'll leave the Finance Committee discussion process, or about the process for our other business item later when Councilor Pillsbury is here. In the meantime, we will hear from Kristen Brewer on behalf of the Wartown Cooperative Water Infrastructure Project.
Are we doing information exchange? You did announcements.
I did it all out of whack today. So do you have anything you'd like to share for
Well, yeah, I
information
was gonna
exchange?
Talk about the ordinance committee's met, and we're working on the personnel ordinance. Big changes are in vacation, not the amount of vacation you get, but how you take the vacation and how you accrue it. The biggest part of that is if you're a new employee, you gotta work well, as an employee, it used to be your vacation time was dumped into your vacation box. Sorry, that was the microphone, wasn't it? In the past, your vacation time was dumped in the box at the end of the year. Now you get to accrue it all year long and use it all year long. The other big thing about that is if you're a new employee, you accrue it, but you can't use it until you've worked for us for 120 days, and then you get to use it. So it's really nice because then you don't have to wait all year to take vacation. The other part we're working on is the disciplinary action boards and that kind of stuff. We're making it clear and better usable if we need it. Hopefully we don't need it. I think we've used it very minimally in the past, but it's to help clear that up so everybody understands is on the same page.
Great. Thank you. Any other information folks want to share because I messed up the entire process? All right, great, thank you. Then we'll hand it over to you, Kristen.
Hi, everyone. This is on. Hi, I'm Kirsten Brewer. I work for the Cooperative Development Institute. We are the technical assistance provider for the Wardtown Mobile Home Cooperative. I'm joined by a board member. I'll let him say hello as well.
Michael Guimond, Director of Operations for the co-op.
Closer.
Yeah, there's another clip-on one if one of you wants to use that.
We'll share.
We'll share, yeah. I work with CDI, Cooperative Development Institute, and I'm on the Water Infrastructure Support Program team. We just focus on helping co-ops with their water infrastructure because it's such a common challenge throughout New England and the country. So a little background on the Wardtown Co-op. They formed in 2014 and they bought their park. And is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. And the volunteer board of directors manages the entire park, and we support governance and other projects. So in terms of their water, they are served by private well water. It's a public water system regulated by the state. They also are served by private septic systems. Generally, the infrastructure is aging and in poor repair. The water system, the drinking water system in particular, it was never installed properly from the get-go. So we've been working with the co-op for the last few years to get them some engineering support. They had some free support from the EPA. And those engineers recommended a full replacement of the distribution system. So we've been fundraising to do that work. We're about to start on phase one. That's been fully funded by the state drinking water SRF program, as well as a grant from HUD called the Price Grant. We're in the final steps, getting ready to go to construction this summer, we hope. That full price was $1.9 million, and again, that's fully funded. Phase one is just the east side of the park, so about half of the homes. And we're working to fundraise to work on phase two next. I think councilors know and the town manager knows, we've applied for a congressionally directed spending award to do phase two. So thank you for the letter of support to help us move that forward. There was a lot of back and forth with Senator Collins' staff and the Appropriations Committee, but we were able to get that in with Wardtown as the applicant. Though they're a private organization, they operate their own water system, so they were eligible for this funding. So fingers crossed. We know it's a long process, but we're hopeful about that funding. Our whole goal here is to minimize the debt burden for the co-op. So part of that $1.9 million is a loan through the Drinking Water SRF program. They qualified for substantial principal forgiveness, which is very helpful, but there is debt that the members have agreed to take on. But for phase two and any future program projects, we want to minimize that debt burden as much as possible. The mission is to provide affordable housing. So right now we have no ask of the council, we're forging ahead, but there's plenty of grants out there that only municipalities can apply for. CDI as a nonprofit cannot apply, nor the co-op themselves. So building the relationship is really helpful, and that partnership to access more funding. We have a phase three on our radar, the wastewater project. One of the leach fields is in not great shape, so that is one. Funding's fairly limited for private wastewater, so a CDBG grant might be one of our best paths forward when we figure out a solution there. So thank you for your support and partnership. And Mike, did I miss anything? Anything to add?
No, just that the systems are nickel and diming us to death. Last summer, we spent $43,000 we didn't have. We had to take it from our federated reserves to pay for it. And it seems like every year for the last 7 or 8 years, we've had to fix a water leak of some kind. And it's getting to be untenable. If I have to shut the water off to fix something, I have to shut one side of the park down that's got the leak to fix it. This new project, they're going from 1.25 inches or 1.5 inches black plastic pipe to a 3-inch water main going through curb shutoffs to each home. So if there's a problem each home can be isolated. And there are gonna be flushing hydrants installed so we can keep clean water going throughout. Our well house has 4 new pressure tanks that are about, I wanna say about 6 years old. 3 sand filters and 5 storage tanks. Down the road, we're looking to replace that and get a more modern update so it can be easier to control. And currently, there's no meters anywhere in the park except for one that tells me that the new side, it's on the new side. And if I got a water leak on the new side, all I gotta do is look, and that little wheel in there is spinning like a gerbil on a wheel. Let's see, what else? Yeah, that about does it.
Any questions we can answer?
I have one, just sort of a suggestion that if it's $2 million for half the park, maybe another 2 for the other, plus the wastewater, like, they're starting to get to be pretty big numbers. If it makes sense at any point to talk to the town about extending the water main or the sewer main, because that has a ton of benefit to
Yeah.
everybody else along the route. I know that would be very expensive, but
Yeah.
something to keep in mind.
About 4 times, but we're talking.
The engineers
Wow.
did consider it in that engineering report.
Okay.
They looked at that, yeah.
We looked at it, and you're running at 2 miles from 136 down 125 just to come into that side.
Yeah, that makes sense. Where are you in sort of like the planning process? Is it shovel-ready, or is there still more planning to do?
We're
For
in the-
phase 1, we're almost ready to sign a contract. Yeah, we're very close.
So you
on
have the
phase 1.
plans and the
Yes,
design?
yeah. Phase 2, I think there's a little more design work to do, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
we're very close to being shovel-ready for phase 2.
And when do you think you'll hear back about the earmark?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I guess depends on what Congress does.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
best case September, this fall.
Yeah.
Worst case.
Sometimes they have
September.
quick turnaround. You never know.
Yeah. So I think that for this past year, January is when they
Okay.
got the budget passed. So.
Great.
Trust.
I will say I've spent a little bit of time over there, and it's a really wonderful community you have. So,
We work hard to keep it that way.
yeah, it's a great little spot. Anything else? And thank you for coming in, and I think you're spot on. Building the relationship and just familiarity is really great. So, thank you, Kirsten.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good evening.
Thank you both.
Hey, Brett, can you make sure that she gets your card before you leave?
All right, moving on now to the town manager's report. I will call out again, I called this out the last meeting, that there will be changes to the town hall hours beginning July 6th. So town hall, effective on that day, July 6th, town hall will be open Monday, Wednesdays, and Thursdays from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Tuesdays from 7:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. Anything else that folks would like to call out? Counselor Smith?
I just want to note the official notification of the grant for the wharf project. We talked about that as the tentative approval the other day, and just to remind folks that Municipal Facilities has talked about this for quite a while. This had been put off. We were hoping to get to it last year and then this year, but that delay actually paid off in surprising ways, that we got this $250,000 grant to do the work. So that's great. Sophie, could you speak just a moment to the NEPRA conversation? I had an inquiry about that today, where someone had heard that that was a possibility of
People are reading my reports?
doing something
Yes.
more for the train station, and I'm just wondering if you have want to say anything more about that.
Sure. So what I can say is that we have this transit-oriented development program, and one of the things that's kind of is looking at is the fact that we have the rail station. It creates one of the circles of that. Since I arrived in Freeport, there has been conversation, because we closed the staffed facility. I won't call it a train station, but it was a staff facility. Yeah, that used to be at the hose house. And the question has really been, what is even feasible there within the right-of-way? Is it possible to get a place where people can get undercover a little bit more? NEPRA has a kiosk that they would really like to have a home, but it can't be out. So they are, we had talked about, gee, this sounds great that we should probably look at doing something and around signage and making it a little more user-friendly. But we don't have the capacity on staff to just dive into that. So we reached out to our general engineering consultant that we went through the whole process to pick. And they've given a scope of work that meets NEPRA's guidelines that will ultimately return to council a lot of information about what can be done at the site and the current condition of the site. We're also looking for ways that we might also be able to partner with NEPRA on some of the maintenance aspects of the building. So the goal that we have at the end of the day is for up to, I think the maximum will be like $12,000, but it's a not to exceed number. With NEPRA paying the rest of the bill, we would be able to get kind of the feasibility analysis of what could be done there, and be able to build that in after conversation with council about what council might like to do. I do think it's important for us to be able to give NEPRA some general guidance over the next 18 months or so as to are we interested in doing anything there? Do we just want to maintain what we have? Do we want to grow it to meet their standard? Do we want to do more? Do we want bathrooms, which I don't know that we do, but the goal here was to be able to give the council and NEPRA base information from which they could decide what the future looks like. Is that what you're looking for?
Do you have a timeline on that, roughly?
It's in the scope. You give me
Okay.
give me 1 minute.
While you're looking, is this study something that the town has asked NEPRA to help with, or is this something NEPRA is looking for, we're supporting?
I think we asked for the baseline. Yeah, feeling like if we want to, as part of the TIF, there was some work programmed in around the train and trying to figure out what that kind of would look like and have enough information to be able to have a reasonable conversation with council. This looks like schedule 3 to 5 months to complete.
Okay, thanks.
You're welcome.
Any other comments on the manager's report from council? Anything you'd like to highlight, Sophie?
Yeah, I do want to highlight the petition certification, if I could. We had a conversation that the public saw at our March 17th meeting around the proposed citizen-initiated ordinance to launch the Island Rover, that council at that point directed the town clerk to create the petition forms for. And you had called the referendum election contingent upon the signatures being received. So the group had until April 22nd to submit a total of 738 valid signatures. They went through that process. They returned them on the 22nd. Chris Wolf and her deputy did an amazing job going through multiple times. They had quite a system going on, and verified that although they submitted a total of 146 signatures. I'm sorry, 746 signatures. 639 were valid, so it did not meet the criteria for this election.
Thank you.
Welcome.
All right, any other thoughts?
Can I just add one thought that was not in my report? And that is, so far I have received questions from 2 residents about budget, so questions or comment. I am in the process of formatting that into a document that I'll share with council. But I just really want to encourage people, the sooner they bring their questions or comments or submit them either through council or to me directly, the better it is for us to actually, for the council to have time to see it and staff to be able to provide some background for it.
Thank you. All right, we will move on to public comment. This is our first part. So it's for folks who are here in person, limited to comments that are to items that are not on the agenda. We just ask that folks approach the podium and introduce themselves and keep their remarks to 3 minutes or less. Hi.
Good evening. My name is Valerie Adams. I am a candidate for district attorney, and I'm here tonight to introduce myself to all of you because if elected, we will be working together. I am not a newcomer to Maine, but I am a political newcomer, so I don't know many of you. I'm from Portland. I grew up there. I live in Pownell now with my husband and my kids, so right next door. I've been a defense attorney. I've been a prosecutor. I've been an immigration attorney, and I've also been a town councilor, so I have a lot of respect for the work that you all are doing up there. So just to touch on my platform a bit, if elected, I intend to shift the focus of the district attorney's office a little bit so that we are becoming more effective advocates. And I take this from my practice both as a defense attorney and as a prosecutor. I would like to see us refocus our efforts on the most serious offenses so that we are reserving the most serious tools for those cases, and when we ask for them, the court knows that that is what we need in those cases. Simultaneously, I'd like to see diversion opportunities expanded. This will have many benefits. It will conserve limited prosecutorial resources, but also allow people to be rehabilitated and to reintegrate into the community. And ultimately, we are all going to have to live side by side, whether someone has committed a crime or not. So the data really shows that these diversion opportunities do help with the rehabilitation and reintegration, and ultimately they reduce recidivism, which is the goal here. I'd like to see a pre-charge diversion program created. This is something that doesn't exist in Cumberland County except in one law enforcement agency in Scarborough, and it's really a shame that it's only available to people who offend in Scarborough and live in Scarborough or adjacent communities. It would benefit so many people to avoid having a formal criminal charge filed and be able to obtain the benefit of diversion without that. In particular, the group that I have in mind are certain non-citizens who are subject to mandatory detention by ICE if they're merely charged with a shoplifting offense, whereas someone else in a different immigration status or a U.S. citizen would be able to complete a course and have the charge dismissed. So we see really disparate outcomes between those two groups. Pre-charge diversion would level the playing field a bit and let people have an equitable opportunity. And finally, in recent years, I've seen the relationship between the DA's office and law enforcement become very strained. Those two organizations are partners and need to be partners and need to work together in order to ensure public safety, which is ultimately the goal of the district attorney's office. So I would really like to work to repair that relationship. I've already started meeting with chiefs of police here in Brunswick, in Cumberland, all over the place to hear their concerns and talk about what we could do differently. I'm running now, and this part, I just want to preface it by saying this is not a comfortable thing to say, but I'm running now because I worked in that office, and I saw firsthand how things aren't working, and I saw firsthand that we have a district attorney who's unable to lead and unable to implement policies. It's really important that the district attorney lead effectively because the actions or the inactions of the DA have a direct impact on the lives of victims and on the rights of defendants. I saw that happening. I saw that there was an injustice there, and I stood up to do something about it. So it's very nice to meet all of you. I'd be happy to talk more about my platform and the ways that Freeport has an interest in the work of the DA's office, if any of you would like to reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. I really appreciate it. And I do have Valerie's email. She reached out, so I'm happy to share that with counselors if they would like to follow up. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Any other folks who would like to speak for public comment? Okay. So before we move on to new business, I just wanted to flag that I am going to propose that we move other business, the first item, to our next meeting. I would like to make sure we have a full council for that discussion. This is about the timeline for applicant-driven land use zoning ordinance amendments that we've been talking about. So I'd like to save that for when we have a full council.
Which one is that?
That's the timeline, the planning board, town council planning process for amendments. So with no objection, we will move that to the next meeting. The applicant who is in the room, that does not impact you, just to be clear. Yes. All right, moving on to our new business, our voting portion. Our first item is 57-26, our consent agenda. Any questions or thoughts on this? Counselor Pilch?
I just want to call out that I love the farmer's market. I can't remember, we're on year 3 or 4 maybe of doing that. It's every Friday morning to midday. So we offer them a little bit of financial support, but mostly just let them use the park. And I just think it's such a great thing to have in town. And then we also have concerts in the park on Saturdays or Sundays, I forget.
I don't
which it is.
remember.
But one of the weekend days, there's a concert in the park every week in the summer. So it's just lovely, and I just wanted to call attention to it, that's all. And a shout out to FCAN for help managing the farmer's market. They do a great job. Nobody makes any money on that, so it's just a nice thing to have in town.
Yeah. I also would like to point out the summer solstice concert at Hedgehog. This had come up in our conversation with the Conservation Commission. I think we were all curious for more information. The link in the agenda gives more detail, and it sounds honestly quite lovely. Yeah.
That's what I hear from my daughter.
Great. Wonderful.
It will be memorable, actually.
Yeah. Yep. And it looks like very low impact.
2 hours,
Yep.
6 to 8
Yep.
in the evening.
So. All right. Well, with that, Counselor Lawrence.
Be it ordered that the May 5th, 2026 consent agenda be adopted.
Second.
Any final thoughts or questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to item 58-26. This is a public hearing to consider action relative to amendments to Chapter 21 zoning ordinance regarding C1 and C3 districts. And Kyle is here to refresh our memories.
Hi, everyone. Kyle Drexler, Town Planner. Yeah, we talked about this a bit last time, but just a quick overview again. Coming out of the adoption of the comp plan update in the fall, the Planning Board started working on amendments to the Commercial 1 and Commercial 3 districts, primarily to increase development opportunities with a specific focus around housing. The district is meant to be a mixed-use district, or both of them. It's really meant to be a mixed-use corridor coming from, south the town line up to the downtown. But functionally right now, housing is allowed at such a low density that we don't really see that mixed-use development pattern actually taking place. So a lot of the comp plan recommendations were around things like, decreasing minimum lot size requirements, increasing building heights, increasing density by amending, minimum lot area per dwellings, those sorts of things. So that's the primary goal of the amendment, was to tackle that. Along the way, there was also some cleanup done to those sections of the ordinance. The Commercial 1 district section in the ordinance especially was a little bit messy and confusing to read for staff, applicants, really anyone using that. And then we also took a look at some of the performance standards that apply to projects that go through site plan review in those two districts as well, around things like vehicular access, pedestrian access, building design, all those sorts of things, which are housed in the zoning ordinance. So we made some amendments there to kind of beef up those standards in places where the language was a little soft and it made review difficult at the project review board level. It was difficult to set an expectation up front when talking with applicants and developers. So we tried to shore up some of that language. So, I mean, I think the biggest changes highlight-wise are around the space and bulk standards in the two districts and the potential development that could follow up on that. Specifically, the density allowances going from somewhere in the neighborhood of like 3 to 6 units per acre being allowed now to something like 26 to 34 units an acre, increasing building heights from 35 feet to 45 feet, reducing setback requirements and increasing impervious coverage allowances by a little bit, just to bring those districts more in line with our other growth area districts. The planning board spent several months talking about this, and they felt good about it. They felt it was consistent with the comp plan update. So now we're here. I'm happy to answer any more questions if people have them.
Any questions for Kyle before we open up the public hearing? One thing that has been on my mind is we just went through a process to kind of take out subjectivity on the PRB side. And there's a little bit of subjectivity in this language, right, with the landscaping.
Yep.
Was there a conversation around that?
Yeah, I mean, we have this conversation all the time at planning board about like where that line is.
Yeah.
Because if you go too far in the making standards like very objective and very strict, then we create more situations where a specific project comes forward or someone's interested in doing something, and if there's no flexibility, then they have to ask for a change to the zoning ordinance to allow it, and it creates more of those situations. So yeah, we have that conversation a lot around giving the board some discretion, but putting some sort of parameter or guideline around it, so there's a proper lens to look through those situations and not just allow like kind of a free-for-all discussion.
Yeah.
But at the same time, not making something so specific that there's no room for discussion either.
Great, thank you. Welcome, Councilor Pillsbury.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, then I will go ahead and I will open the public hearing for this item. Anyone who would like to speak can approach the podium. And please just introduce yourself.
Yep, Andrew Arsenault, planning board member, and as Kyle pointed out during the discussion on landscaping stuff, I sort of drove some of that because I live down there. And one of the things my complaint was, and I think we rectified some of it, is I live next to what was the hardware store. And I own property abutting the hardware store, let's say. I live across the street. But one of the problems that we had back then was the abutter itself was not really protected. So as I walk up and down Route 1, and I've seen all these developments come, we really spend all kinds of time trying to plant trees out front that most times are not good trees and they're going to die, and the developer hopes they die probably because they're a pain in the neck. And we spend a lot of time trying to hide the building from the street, but we really don't help the guy that lives next door. So my property looks at the end of a metal building, and the subjects I brought up was, well, why are we trying to hide the building if we permit it? And why aren't we helping the neighbor? So he might not want to look at it. So, that's why at the planning board when Maine Beer came up, there was a discussion about the fence with the property we rezoned to make the parking lot, and talked to Steve, in publicly and privately about, how do you protect your neighbor? All of a sudden you've cut a bunch of trees, and we're happy to have them expand, and we were happy to change the zone for him, but the abutter has an issue, not really Route 1. So that was a lot of the discussion around, sort of how do we tweak and how do we allow for things. I grew up next to the motel down there, Had a beautiful, big, long lawn out front, and it wasn't all covered with bushes and trees and flowers and stuff. And, you know, it was nice because it was plain, it was clean, it was nice, and there's nothing wrong with that, too. Every square inch doesn't have to be covered with a shrub or a tree or a bush. So that was sort of the medium we were trying to hit, you know, the middle spot we were trying to hit. So it was, my drive was to help the neighbor that's got to look at this thing, you know, so, and if we're living in a business district, why can't we see the building? So, you know, if it's well done. So, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else who would like to speak? Anybody online?
No hands up.
Check at the attendee tab.
Yeah, get the hand registered.
Would it? Okay. All right. I will go ahead and I will close the public hearing. Any discussion?
Just to drive a point home, to get through the jargon and the acronyms, that basically what we're doing is saying if anybody wants to build multifamily housing between, say, the L Bean headquarters all the way down to the Y, along Lower Main Street, Route 1 South, we're making it easier. You don't need as much land, you could build more densely. That's what we're trying to do here. So there's a lot of language, but I think that's the intent. So anybody who's thinking about building housing, come to Freeport.
Anything else? Okay. Counselor Pilch?
Got the right one. Be it ordained that amendments to Town of Freeport Ordinance Chapter 21, zoning ordinance regarding C1 and C3 zoning district changes to increase housing and development opportunities in the Village Gateway and Route 1 South growth areas be adopted.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Oops. Great. Thank you, Kyle. That is true. All right, next is our next public hearing, which is to consider action relative to amendments to Chapter 21 zoning ordinance regarding text amendments to allow drive-up restaurants. To clarify, drive-up restaurants are allowed. It's changing some of the conditions. Yep. And Kyle, take it away.
Yeah, so at the same planning board meeting on April 1st, the last item was reviewed at. We also had this item, which was an applicant-driven zoning text amendment request. The applicant's here. And basically, the applicant is interested in pursuing potential Aroma Joe's development project in the Route 1 South area, which would fall within our C1 district. But they wanted to kind of recommend or pursue this small tweak to our definition for drive-up restaurants. So we talked about this last time. Right now, drive-up restaurants are allowed in 3 zoning districts in town, C1, C4, and VC2. VC2 primarily along, well, I got the zoning map right up there. So the VC2 is primarily along Mallet and a little bit of Main Street, and then, you know, C1 is that light purple, really stretching a good portion of Route 1 South. And the C4 is a pretty small area along Desert Road with not that much developable land. So this change wouldn't really impact the C4 much at all. It also wouldn't impact the VC2 much at all because the VC2 has its own specific drive-up restaurant standards built into that section of the zoning ordinance. So effectively, even though it's amending or proposing to amend the definition for all drive-up restaurants, it really only creates an impact in the commercial 1 district. And it would lower the minimum indoor seating requirement associated with drive-up restaurants from 75 to 20. So right now, the way our drive-up restaurant standards or definition have evolved over time is that you had to have, you know, this certain amount of indoor seating alongside the drive-up restaurant, really in an effort to make the drive-through only a component of it. You know, there's going to be this large seating area required as well. In 2000-ish, I guess, when the Dunkin' Donuts came forward, there was this provision added to the definition where you could have a much lower seating requirement in the C1 if you were part of a larger scale building. So that's where that part of the definition came from. But the applicant, in their application, they flagged that, over time, drive-through models have changed and is now pursuing the reduction down to 20 indoor seat minimum requirement for the district. So the planning board discussed the change, and I think the conversation largely focused around that as the impacts of the change were largely be felt in the C1 district, that's an appropriate place for something like this, and that's why they landed on recommending it to council and voting that it was in line with what the comprehensive plan was talking about for that area. We're not talking about the Village Gateway area or the downtown area. The C1 area falls really entirely almost within the that Route 1 South growth area identified in the comp plan, which talks about, kind of creating some infill redevelopment opportunities in that area with some new development, creating some kind of like pocket neighborhoods and clusters and things like that. But with the infrastructure that's there now and the existing uses that are there now, even branching into some kind of light industrial type uses, the comp plan didn't really envision that, right away being this walkable, bikeable, kind of traditional village feel. So that was sort of the planning board's reasoning as to why something like this would be appropriate there versus other zoning districts within our growth area. At the meeting, there was some public comment. I think there were 4 comments in total, 3 in favor of the proposed change, citing, expanding business opportunities and things like that, which the comp plan supports. The 1 comment against the proposal spoke more along the lines of climate and environmental considerations with kind of specific comments around, promoting like car idling and things like that. So the planning board did weigh in on that a little bit, and at the end of the day, they landed on kind of looking at it as a balance. The planning board, I think, looked during the comp plan process a lot at balancing kind of growth opportunities and environmental considerations. They talked about expanding growth areas in certain areas and keeping rural areas rural, and they had a lot of those conversations. So I think looking at the fact that this is an identified growth area, they felt it was comfortable for this type of development to happen there. So the planning board voted unanimously, those who were present for the meeting, to recommend it to council, and that it was in line with the comp plan. But happy to answer any follow-up questions here.
Any questions? Councilor Pillsbury?
Do you have a rough sense of what the square footage impact is going from 75 indoor seats to 20? Like what that does for building dimension?
I don't off the top of my head. I don't know if the applicant, if you have an idea of how big square footage wise your
it would have been like 4,000 square feet around that. If we wanted to fit 75 seats, we'd have 1,500 square feet.
Okay.
I mean, we don't have any square footage limitations or anything like that. So, I mean, theoretically, someone.
Kyle, could you repeat that answer into the microphone?
Okay.
Thank you.
I think originally they were looking at 4,000, and then it would drop down to 1,500 square feet with the lower seating requirement. But I was just following up saying, we don't have any square footage requirement, so while functionally seating might be tied normally to a square footage, just kind of generally, theoretically, someone could have a 20 indoor seats, but put it in a much larger space, and we wouldn't really look at that at all from the development review standpoint.
Is there any impact in having like a 4,000 square foot building versus 1,500 on the lot size?
No, I mean, the only square footage wise of like building footprint, the only thing you're going to run into is, whether you meet your impervious coverage allowance for the site. But most likely with whether it's 1,500 square foot building or 4,000 square foot building, that's not going to change that too much.
Okay. I'm just trying to get some context for what it might look like. But at the same time, I think it leads me to my next point is I'm supportive. I think this will be a great addition. But it is the start of something, and I wonder how we're going to address starting that process and having a sort of mini visioning for that area, because I don't think it would be wise for us to just say, fingers crossed, let's see what shows up. I think we want to be targeted just like we are in other parts of town and supportive of opportunities that further the community's vision.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I think I plan to support this, but I recall the discussion last meeting around concerns of like the unintended consequences and when do we know if it's gone too far. I think that's probably something we can work with Sophie on to get on some
So I
sort of
think-
workshop or
I think
planning.
Brett actually has an answer for you.
Oh,
Just a real quick update to that point, Councilor Pillsbury. A couple of years ago, this town received a grant from the Maine Office of Community Affairs that, through no fault of our own, got lost in a bureaucratic shuffle. We've sort of resurrected that grant, and one of the things that we're going to repurpose is to do a similar build-out analysis and infrastructure analysis for the C1 area. So similar to what we saw with the downtown vision and the village corridor, we'll get a sense for what kind of development that area in C1 can support, and then where the infrastructure gaps are. So it'll be a step in that direction to start to visualize, envision what we can do down there.
what would be the timeline for that? Do you know?
Relatively quickly. We have Sebago Technics under contract. They have a talented GIS technician, and they're on board with the scope of work. And so we needed to figure out a few things. The other part of that grant that we're carrying forward is an outreach campaign around how to build housing in Freeport. So as the planning board's, upzoning and creating more flexibility, as Councilor Pilch mentioned with the zoning changes, we're going to start to work with a professional promotions person to put together a multimedia marketing campaign to push out messaging around how folks who are interested in building an ADU in their backyard can go about that, about how if you're interested in doing a multifamily project, how to go about that process. And so we're gonna shape that, and then we'll have a nice budget left over that we can move forward pretty quickly with the Sebago Technics.
Can you talk a little bit about how sort of like the bike and ped work could dovetail into that process?
Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see it all coming together. One of the council goals that we're going to be working on pretty soon is to create a multi-use path strategy, start to prioritize among the opportunities that we have in town where we want to focus our funding for the greatest impact. And so we're going to be starting that hopefully pretty soon here with an idea that we'll work through a work plan within 3 or 4 months. We'll have some idea about what kind of funding is available, how we marry that to our opportunities, and then how we prioritize in a capital plan and with staff capacity at Public Works and others to go ahead and start building it. So this is all going to be additive and integrated and tie together in a cohesive way.
And so ideally, we have a balanced plan that has bike ped, business development, and housing kind of all in one package.
That's right. So part of the infrastructure planning, we're using the Woodard and Kern study for the Dogbone area as a model. And that included water, sewer, stormwater, and also bike ped amenities. So we'll understand where those facilities exist, where they don't, and then a budget estimate about what it would take to fill those gaps.
Great. Councilor Lawrence.
Yeah, well, I'm for this, and I think we should do it. What's nice about it is it
Thank you,
makes
Brett.
for smaller commercial buildings, so you can have bigger housing buildings. You can have a few more of these commercial buildings, and I know we have to do balance, but I don't see a huge crush coming in, and all of a sudden we have 40 of these things. One, I don't think the business is there. So it's nice, and I applaud the effort.
Yeah, and I think, the consistent kind of will of the council I hear is to make sure that doesn't happen. So that makes me,
Right,
comfortable.
and we can sit here and say, what if?
Yeah.
This is the first project that's been pushed through in the 9 years that I've been here. So it's not like there's a huge crushing, and we say we want balance, well, we have zero.
Yeah.
What is that balance? So I'm more of a cowboy, I get it, and I'd say, let's roll the dice, let's see what happens, because that's what makes it interesting. I mean, it really does make it interesting, so.
Counselor Pilch?
I want to echo what Counselor Pillsbury had said before. So I'm supportive of the project. Thank you for bringing it to town. Can't wait for us to do our business so that you can do your business. When I think about other stretches of road that has a lot of drive-up restaurants in it as I travel across the country, I don't want Freeport to look like that, the vision that I have in my head. I'm guessing a lot of us don't. I don't think this is going to happen tomorrow, but anything that gets proposed starting tomorrow could wind up getting in the queue to be developed. So I think we all, I'm guessing all of us and probably most of the public, has a somewhat shared vision around how densely populated with drive-up restaurants we want this part of Route 1 to be. So if we spend some time maybe with the council and the planning board in short order, weeks or months, not years, to say, hey, what is that vision? What is that? I don't know if it's a cap or a distance requirement or just some way of expressing what it is we're trying to do, and do something soon-ish.
Before Counselor Lawrence, I think Counselor Pillsbury, you wanted to say something?
No, we can carry that thought. I do have something to.
Okay, Counselor Lawrence.
Well, I would think that where those strips are, the laws or the ordinances where this is industrial, you can do this here, and there's no, like we had in this town, we have mixed use space, but it's very specific. And so I would bet that all those places where you have 20 of these stores or restaurants, it's because that's what was allowed there and nothing else.
And I think what we're changing tonight is making it look more like that, or
Well,
opening that possibility.
Yeah, but we just changed the C1 to, or C1 to say, hey, you can build housing here.
I think it's, it's lowering, it's already an allowed use, right? We can already have drive-up. It's
Right.
lowering the barrier. And I share sort of I think there's an opportunity to have that conversation on a policy or visioning level to give a little bit of insight as, Brett and staff go through the process they were just describing. Yeah.
We just got to be careful because every law we've ever written has gotten us and it's not just Freeport, it's everywhere, where we have low-density housing and the
Yeah.
housing crisis.
And I
we
will
have.
say that
So,
that pendulum will continue to swing
yeah,
in
but it's
perpetuity
gone
for the rest of
so
time.
far one way that we're in this housing crisis.
So can I suggest, I'm looking at Kyle, can I suggest that perhaps we look at your July workshop?
I think so.
Because that's, I think, the first one you have free that's not budget.
Well, I think do we have anything on the 26th of this month?
Yeah.
We do.
Oh, yeah.
I just look at my calendar and go where it
That's
tells
budget.
me.
It might not say it, but trust me,
Yes.
after everything we've talked about, it will be budget.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have the 23rd of June.
So we had held because
Because
you're
we're
right.
hoping to pass the budget.
The 23rd would work. Kyle, is that enough time, do you think, to get some base work done to support a joint workshop? Can you check with planning board to see if they would be free for that?
Yep.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do folks
work?
want to do that?
We'll have a workshop. What exactly we're doing here?
Yeah, good. Yeah, bring it to a point. So basically to discuss, I think we want to move on
This, yeah,
but then take the time to think about long-term
Yeah, that's fine.
planning
yeah,
And
yeah.
around that quarter.
Yeah, I think it will be further, the information that Brett and his team, which includes Kyle, are going to be coming up with on the build-out analysis will inform it further. However, I think there are some things that we could do right now, like, for example, talking about curb cuts on Route 1 for restaurants. Some places where you don't want to have that look it's simply about access, and that way queuing isn't happening onto Route 1. That's something simple that could be a stopgap if we wanted to.
Like the density as you were talking about and some of that, yeah. So that sounds great. Yeah.
I have one question for the applicant. Is there anything about that particular site that drew you to it, or are you trying to capture sort of local market share that's been going to Brunswick, and you feel like you can serve it better in Freeport with the location?
Yes, please, thank you.
I think there's a few different things that drew us to this specific site. I know the developments existed for a while, and they've wanted, tenants in there. We would be the anchor tenant. I think, trying to catch the market that, since there is no Roma Joe's in Freeport, I know that personally, when I was in high school, me and all the people I knew, we would drive all the way to Brunswick. I think to capture the Freeport residents and have them, maybe spend their money in Freeport instead of driving out of Freeport to go do that, is the main attraction. And I'm from Freeport, obviously, so it holds a special place in my heart.
But anything particular around that location versus someplace else in town?
I think the C1 zone is the best zone for drive-through simply because nothing about the ordinance is being changed other than that seating requirement. So it still allows the planning board all their authority for what they want to accept or not accept in Freeport, as opposed to in town where it's much more difficult to put a drive-through in.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
I have another question. Why the decrease in seating? What does that offer you as, lowering barriers? What does that do for your project?
For a smaller, more local business, it was just the financial impact of like a building that's, 4,000 square feet as opposed to 1,500 square feet.
Yeah, thank you. Great.
Sort of an interesting thing we can consider in our workshop. A row full of 1,500 square foot buildings is probably going to bring in a lot less tax revenue than a row full of 4,000 square foot buildings or multifamily homes. So just consider the mix of different uses that we have and how that might impact our taxes.
Is someone writing that down, Kyle?
Kyle's got it.
Do you have a thought on that, or just?
No, I think diversity is important.
Yeah.
Diversity of the type of businesses, and I think it all starts with one. And then I think we are moving at a clip that should allow us to address some of your concerns.
Yeah. And I just want to kind of say to remind the public, this isn't approval to do the project. This is approval to lower the seating requirement. The applicants still will have to go through the process otherwise. So just to remind folks of that. Yeah. Any other thoughts before we open the public hearing? We all got so excited about zoning changes. So I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. So if anyone would like to speak, they may approach the podium. And just please introduce yourself and try to keep it to 3 minutes.
How you guys doing? My name is Gabe Wagner. I'm a local here in Freeport. I've been here for 12 years. Just touching on the Roma Joe's, what the applicant was saying, the closest location we have is either Brunswick, and even when I was in high school, I was actually shipping it off to Gray most of the time to go to Roma Joe's. And then I just think it would be a good thing. I know if I was in high school, just touching on the younger community, that I think Route 1 is perfect, and also Yarmouth. People could also go there as well. And with the zoning especially, I think C1's perfect. I think on Route 1, because like many of you guys, I like my Freeport Village quiet. I don't want it to be, a building zone. And Route 1, it's perfect for that drive-through. We also have, plenty of need for things there. It's just kind of like an empty stretch, and there's nothing there. There's kind of just that ugly Ford warehouse there and a bunch of boats that have for sale signs that never get sold. So I think it would be great to, dive into an Aroma Joe's. It's kind of the new era of, coffee or energy drinks. I still love Dunkin', but it's kind of outdated now. So for the younger community, I think it should be a perfect opportunity to add one. So that's all I have. Thank you.
I grew up on Dunkin' Donuts, so careful.
And McDonald's.
Anybody else? Thank you.
It's Andrew Arsenal. I walk right by this lot every day. It's a 9-lot subdivision that the Chinchets started to put their Ford garage in. And they're the owners of all these lots, if I remember right. And we had a building proposed there. They had a building proposed there years ago. It was going to be a health center. They went through the process, and they got dragged out for a year and a half or 2 years because every time they went to the project review board, there had to be a different window or a different door. And they finally said, this is taking too long. They went to another town and built it. So we lost that revenue. It's inside a 9-lot subdivision. It's not going to exit onto Route 1 except through the main driveway. And to answer Mr. Pilch's question, a comment that this is going to be the demise of Route 1 South. Since we've implemented zoning in '76, Route 1 South has been the boogeyman for every strip zoning slander that has come along. And as a resident down there, and I've seen businesses come and go, and some fail, I don't think that's a big concern. Most of the lots are residential down there, probably 50% are. There's a lot of established businesses that probably aren't going to change, and the few empty lots that are there aren't going to be confiscated up with 1,500 square foot drive-ups. So I think you could assuage your, or if I could assuage your concern is, it's probably not going to happen. It had a good hearing at the planning board, and I think we were all in favor of it, and I think, you know, we just got to take a step forward and say, I think it'll be all right, and not to freak out. So, you know, just if we all just cool our heels for a while and let this kid get started, and I think it'll be fine. So,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tawny Whitney, Freeport Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development. I have a question with the proposal that you guys were just talking about. Does that make it so that you wouldn't vote on this tonight?
Oh, no.
Okay.
No, definitely
I was just hoping for clarification.
Yeah, yeah, thanks for asking.
And I
No.
appreciate that
We'll vote
answer
on
very
it
much.
tonight.
So I have been working with Gio for a good, I couldn't believe it, honestly. I have him in my phone as Aroma Joe's. It's a big deal. It's a big deal to have new business, particularly on Route 1. I think we've done a wonderful job focusing on downtown, and by no means am I saying we won't continue, but, you know, it's, with effort, we've seen good change down there. You know, we've got a groundbreaking for a housing project tomorrow. So these are great things. And I do think this is a wonderful opportunity to start to kind of shift some of our focus onto Route 1. You talk about having the desire to make it easy to have housing on Route 1. I think this is a great little energy starter on that piece of land in Freeport. You know, we identified in the downtown revision that we have a need for food and beverage. This answers that. There was also an oddity in the downtown revision where there was this very strange thing that they figured out that their kids are hanging out at CVS. And they said, well, why are the kids hanging out at CVS? We don't usually see that. We see them hanging out at rec centers or, you know, other places, and that stood out as somewhat strange. And having kids myself, I was able to answer that, and it was because there is no other place for kids to go. And so they would go there, grab a soda and a bag of candy, and hang out on the 2 benches that are provided there. Now that my kids are older and in high school, they go to Aroma Joe's in Brunswick almost every day. It is a social event for them. They pack the car full of kids. They drive away from Freeport. And for us to have a little space in Freeport where there are 20 seats is going to give our kids a safe place to hang out. Our teenagers, you know, this is a vulnerable population, a population that oftentimes with nothing to do, bad things can happen. It brings together girls and boys. I mean, it's just such a positive addition. And not to mention that, you know, this is a regional brand. We wanted a mix of a third regional, a third local, and a third national. This also fits that wish that we had. And then just to make it fabulous, Gio went to high school here himself. And I am just grateful that he picked Freeport to open an Aroma Joe's, hopefully. So thank you.
Thank you. And, you know, just some gratitude also to the applicant. I think this is, you know, encouraging us to start this conversation about that whole corridor. So thank you for kind of allowing yourself to be in the middle of that. Thank you. Please go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Clay Hardy. I'm a commercial broker in Maine. I have a couple listings in Freeport, so I have some experience in the town, although I didn't grow up here like everyone seems to have. I missed out on that. I did spend some time hanging around playing sports, so I got to see somewhat of the village. I think after COVID, the vacancy rates in Freeport were definitely very high, and since then they've shifted back into the green. But I think that change has been primarily because traditional retail has kind of moved out of spaces like Orvis and so on and so forth to these local, everyday use businesses. I have a tool in my job called Placer AI that allows me to put a property into software so I can see what would be the best fit. And like she said, there isn't anything for the kids to do. So a lot of the businesses I'm seeing are centered around kids. I'm seeing indoor playgrounds and things of that nature for, people to bring their kids so they can go shop and still enjoy the Freeport Village, but have something to do for the younger generation. But without allowing local businesses come in, that's just not going to be available. And like Daniel mentioned, taxes. I think whether it's 2 1,500 square foot buildings or 1 4,000, the taxes, it's pretty much going to be the same. You guys have the second highest triple net per square foot in Maine. You're tied with Kennebunk. So I think, you guys will be all right in that aspect. But other than that, I think it'll be a great addition to drive some more business to Freeport. So I hope you guys vote in favor, but thank you.
Thank you very much. Before we open it back to council, anybody else for the public hearing? Go ahead. Yes.
My name is Junakuzzi. I'm the applicant. A few things I wanted to touch on. I know there's a fear of many drive-throughs just popping up all in that C1 zone, right? Obviously, I wouldn't want that either, just a bunch of 1,500 square foot buildings. I think it's worth mentioning. I had a few conversations with the town planner of Falmouth. I believe in 2013, they adopted to allow drive-throughs along the same stretch like the Route 1 corridor in Falmouth. And since they adopted that, they haven't had any drive-throughs pop up, any new ones. They had McDonald's that was grandfathered on, obviously. But I think Falmouth is a very similar Route 1 corridor where you can think if they didn't have, an influx of new drive-throughs, and I don't see us having that, if that makes sense. So just to ease that concern maybe a little bit with more of an example that it would hit home.
Thank you.
Quick question, Mr. Hardy. You mentioned that we're tied with Kennebunk for the highest triple net rates in the state. We've also been hearing that our rents have been coming down significantly, and we're now like,
Can you I'm sorry, we need it on camera.
I'm just wondering how recent the data is. Are we still up there, which would be, like, it's good and bad, right? It's hard to start a new business if the rents are so high, but it's also...
Yeah, you guys are tied for second with Kennebunk.
That's recent.
But it is, that's recent. And that is asset-based, so like Portland, for instance, is highest for retail and so on and so forth. So it is niche down, but I mean, there's only a certain type of tenant mix you can put in each town, and you guys have been large retail mainly, I think you could probably speak to it better than me being a resident, but it's like I said, it's shifting. So it's going to be very difficult if alongside having that high rate and high expense, there's all these other ordinances in place to kind of keep those local users, everyday use businesses from coming in.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Anybody else for the public hearing? I think everyone spoke in the room. Who's on staff? And then online, we're all set as well. So I'll go ahead and close the public hearing. Thank you all for speaking. Thank you very much for being here. Bring it back up to the council. Councilor Brown?
I just have one question for the applicant. With the glowing support in this room, do you have a phase 2 plan to expand to 40 seats?
Not yet, but if it gets packed,
We're thinking about
40 people in there every day, I'll make it 40 seats as soon.
Just
Any other questions? I'm very happy with how this conversation went. I think it will, we'll be able to hopefully move this forward and then have greater discussions about what we're looking for in those zones. Any other thoughts? Okay. Councilor Brown, I believe?
Be it ordained that text amendments to the Town of Freeport Ordinance, Chapter 21, zoning ordinance to reduce the minimum indoor seating required for drive-up restaurants be adopted.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations and good luck with the rest of the process.
Thank you all.
Yeah. Okay, moving on to our next item, which is relative to terminating the Wildwood Apartments Affordable Housing Tax Increment Financing District and Development Program. And we have Development Director Brett Richardson here.
Thank you. Bringing this back after we discussed it briefly at the last council meeting. A couple of years ago, the town established an affordable housing tax increment financing district to support the renovation of Wildwood Apartments, and then to use some of the revenues to support that upgrade. Housing is a big issue in Freeport, and not only is creating new housing critical, but maintaining affordability for existing units is critical too. And the town uses TIF as a tool to support affordable housing, as well as public infrastructure like sidewalks and some of the downtown amenities that we all enjoy. So we established this TIF district to support Freeport Housing Trust's acquisition and upgrade. Unfortunately, the project didn't come to fruition. So this TIF district continues to exist on the books, but because the project never took place, it's sort of like a zombie district that really isn't active and is not beneficial to have on the books. In fact, it's actually, in the long term, will be detrimental. So this is really an administrative cleanup with Maine Housing, which is the state entity that endorses and approves affordable housing TIFs. So by passing this resolution tonight, we will be able to submit this packet to Maine Housing, and we'll clear this district off the books. And that creates opportunity within the state's statutes, which limit TIF to 5% of the total land or 5% of the total value in a town. This district currently counts against those caps, even though we're not seeing any benefit and the project never took place. So administrative cleanup to get it off the books.
Any questions?
Second.
Well, Counselor Smith did volunteer to read the entirety of this, so everyone buckle up. Take it away.
Be it resolved, whereas the town of Freeport, here and known as the town.
We gonna do a public hearing?
Oh, I'm so sorry. Thank you. Sorry.
Because I don't want to read it twice.
I was just so excited.
Wait till the end.
I could just be reading it while we're doing the public.
I just got really excited. Okay, so we will open the public hearing. Would anyone like to speak?
Looking at all the people in the room.
Yes.
Nobody online.
Okay.
We will go ahead and close the public hearing. Counselor Smith.
Be it resolved, whereas the town of Freeport, here known as the town, is authorized pursuant to Chapter 206 of Title 30A of the Maine Revised Statutes as amended to designate specific areas within the town as municipal development and tax increment financing districts, and whereas the town created the Wildwood Apartments Affordable Housing Tax Increment Financing District, here known as the district, on April 9th, 2024, and whereas an affordable housing project was contemplated within the district, and whereas the goals of the development program of the district cannot be realized because the affordable housing project did not move forward and will not be developed, and whereas the town did not enter into the credit enhancement agreement associated with the district, and thus the town has not incurred any contractual obligations with any other party, and whereas the district remains in the existence of the Maine State Housing Authority, here known as Maine Housing, unless and until the town terminates it, and whereas because the district has not been terminated pursuant to 30A MRS Section 52473, the acreage and original assessed value within the district count toward the statutory limits of the total acreage of the total original assessed value that may be included in municipalities' tax increment and financing districts, and whereas in the interest of economic development, the potential affordable housing developments, the town of Freeport would like to be able to consider in the future new tax increment financing districts that may bring to the town close to the statutory limits, and whereas the town desires to terminate the district and its corresponding development program as of May 5th, 2026, and whereas the town will notify the main housing of its decision to terminate the district. Now, therefore, be it ordered, Section 1, that the town of Freeport hereby terminates the district and terminates the development program for such district. Section 2, the town council hereby finds and determines that A, the contemplated development projects within the district were not completed as planned, and B, the termination of the district and pursuant to a development programs of other affordable housing projects which have a greater potential for success will make a contribution to the economic growth and well-being of the town of Freeport and the surrounding region, and will contribute to the betterment of the health, welfare, and safety of the inhabitants of the town of Freeport, including a broadened and improved tax base and economy, and therefore constitutes a good and valid public purpose. Section 3, the town manager or her duly appointed representative is hereby authorized, empowered, and directed to notify main housing of the town's decision to terminate the district and associated development program.
Second.
All right, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you.
We couldn't cut that down to like 3 sentences?
We also could have probably waived it, but where's the fun in that?
It's a tiff.
Is it okay that I change the pronoun?
It is, yes. All right, our next item is to consider action relative to a renewal of a cannabis establishment license for Hazy Hill Farms LLC. This is item 61-26.
So I will just let you know that I've been working with Jesse. He has his inspections set up for codes and fire rescue. He already has his police department approval. I had him write out a statement that there have been no changes at his establishment, and we'll set the public hearing.
Any questions for Chris? I will say I live about 0.3 miles from this establishment, and they've been great neighbors, so kudos for that. All right, Councillor Pillsbury.
Be it ordered that a public hearing be set for May 19th, 2026, of the Town Council meeting starting at 6 p.m. in Town Council Chambers, 30 Main Street, related to cannabis establishment license renewal for Hazy Hill Farms LLC, located at 24 Noble Drive.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. Okay, item 62-26. This is action relative to our 2026 property tax assistant rebates. I have Sophie Wilson introducing.
So we went through the process starting the spring. I think we opened it up at the beginning of March to have the community seniors go ahead and apply for the second year of the property tax assistance program. This is a local program funded through Freeport tax dollars that the council created in 2024. We made a couple of shifts this year. First, last year we really condensed. Everybody had to come on like 3 days, and instead we spaced this out throughout the month of March, and then and into April, and then the 3 days before the deadline on the 15th, we held consecutive open office times to allow on different times of the day so that people could come in. And I will say, it really, people kind of, you had the early people who were here first day was really busy, and then after that, it really kind of trickled in. Everybody who participated last year, whether they were funded or not, got a mailer with the application in it. Freeport Community Services, through their income tax program, really helped us out a lot this year. We saw a lot of people coming in with applications that hadn't been folded, so you know they were picked up in some other format other than being mailed. The other thing we did this year, two things, and we had conversations with council in ordinance and finance both. We added the property tax fairness credit worksheet, which everybody who went and had their taxes done at FCS got a packet that had that right on the back all filled out. And it captured all of the income streams that the ordinance required. As you recall, last year, one of the things we brought up is people who are on Social Security don't have to claim all of their income for taxes. It's phased in. And so this, I think, allowed us to capture all of the income. The other thing that we did, based on conversations with counselors at the committees, I think I'm doing what you asked me to do, which is this is supposed to be a rebate of taxes. So we did not pay more. So we looked at what the property tax bill was. We subtracted what they got for property tax fairness credit, and we subtracted what the rebate brought it at most to zero, which was one of the failures that we saw last year when people were saying they ended up with more rebates from property tax than they paid in tax. So this year we had 59 applications come in. 40 households qualified, 19 did not. The total rebates based on the formula I gave you is $23,248. There was initially, in the initial item on the agenda, it was less than that. I corrected it because over the weekend I discovered while I had done the math, we had two qualifying people who had property tax bills for their mobile home, but lot rent, and so I did both calculations for them using 15% of their lot rent. So that's what increased here. My formula didn't catch the adding it back in. So that's what I have for you.
Councilor Pillsbury.
So where does that leave us with fund balance on it?
So our fund balance will be right around 50,000.
Okay, great.
Do we have anything going into it in this year's budget?
We have 25, so if you want to say we're going to stay at 50, we could easily remove that, which I'm sure Jessica would love to do for you.
I would suggest that if there's already 50 in there and we're only used 23,000 this year, it doesn't seem like we need to keep padding it.
Yeah.
I had two questions, and Matt asked one of them, but the other one was, do we know what happened to the other families? So 72 qualified the year before, and we only got 59 even applying this year. Do we know what happened to the others?
No, I don't. I will tell you, it feels like people knew more about it this year, like other people knew more about it. I wonder if, knowing right up front, we told them we were going to use the numbers on the PFC, so I don't know if that impacted. I'm hoping a lot more people learned about the PFC because of our PTFC. There we go. Because of our outreach, perhaps. I truly am not sure, but we saw a lot of new faces.
All right, any other thoughts? I will say I did sit with Sophie one morning during the program, doing the technical assistance, and I highly recommend that if you have time next year to stop by. All right. Where am I, Councilor Lawrence? Did you just go?
No, I didn't just go.
Okay.
I think it was it's the guy sitting right next to you, right? The really long one. That was Councilor Smith. Anyway, be it ordered that the manager be authorized to disperse the amount not to exceed, is that the right amount? 22,006? 22,006.
23.
Yeah.
23,240?
248.
248.
23,248.
In property tax assistant rebates to 40 qualifying applicants.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, moving on to item 63-26. This is
Jessica came.
relative to disbursement of cemetery perpetual care funds. And Jessica, take it away.
Hi. So this is just my annual visit with you on dispersing of the cemetery care funds. This includes what the town contributes for the care of veteran graves, as well as the investment income that was earned on the trust funds for each of the cemetery accounts over the course of the year from April to March of the preceding 12 months. So that's really all I have to give you on this. Unless you have questions, I'm more than happy to answer.
Just to remind us all about the differences, the investment income obviously comes from invested funds. The veterans allotment is statutory.
And comes from the general fund.
Comes from the general fund.
Yep.
So it's not a capital.
That is correct. We
It's a general
budget for
fund every
this
year.
in the operating budget,
Okay, thank you.
which I believe it's currently at $30 a grave. So the cemeteries report to us the number of veteran graves that they have. There's really only one cemetery in town that gives me updated numbers each year based on the research that they do. But yeah, it's around 30. We're budgeting at $30 a grave right now.
Any other questions for Jessica?
And then what happens with the funds? Where do they go?
As far as what where this disbursement goes, it goes to each of the associations for those cemeteries.
Do you ever get a report out as to how they used it?
No.
So,
We hear quite a bit that it's never enough.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not,
so
it's not padding their pockets to mow every few weeks when on a good season, right?
So when it comes to the investment income, we're fiscal agent for their perpetual care funds, so they're not even our funds. So when we disperse them, we really don't have, it's not a matter of, we want to gift these to you. We're truly acting as an agent.
That's correct.
And with the general fund, that's a choice that you all kind of make.
Is it actually a choice, though? I thought that was statutory.
I mean, you do have to make sure veteran graves are taken care of. You have discretion in what that amount looks like. We've increased it in my 11 years here. We've increased it, I think, either 2 or 3 times. I think, looking back, I saw it was as low as like $6, I'm going to say 20 years ago. So it's, yeah.
Any other questions? Counselor Pilch?
Be it ordered that the following perpetual care funds be dispersed as shown on the agenda for a total of $45,221.92.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Great. All right, we are ready for the tabled item, so I'll make a motion to pull item 54-26 around the cell tower lease off the table.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Why are we doing this?
Because we have to,
We tabled it.
yeah.
Why do we table it? I mean,
We,
Still working on the contract.
The last meeting.
Because it wasn't complete.
We're untabling it tonight.
we're untabling.
yes, we're taking it off the table.
Okay, then I'm for that.
Okay, so that was, all in favor one more time? Okay, that was everybody. Sophie?
So we started the conversation last time, and I want to be clear, the agreement that is here is the best representation of all of the agreements we've reached. However, it's got one last time to go through both sets of eyes to make sure that we haven't accepted something in here that we rejected. But in general, it is the bones of the agreement. So there were some questions left from last time. The first is, I will tell you it was a late meeting, and I'm confusing AT&T and T-Mobile, so we don't need to do that anymore. This is an agreement for AT&T. It would join the other agreements we have, T-Mobile, Verizon, and US Cellular, which make up the market as I understand it. In response to, I think, Councilor Pilch, we added a very specific requirement in Section 5 that they use the easement agreement through Bow Street to access the site. I pushed on the 3% per year increase, and they felt that they were already on the high end, and instead agreed to start our base rent at $3,200 a month as opposed to $3,000 a month. And I will say our attorney did agree that 3% per year was a pretty good deal. And then finally, there was a question, I think it came from Councilor Pillsbury, because he always asked the really hard ones, about how many leases we could have at this site. And I tried our former engineer and my internal resources and could not get an answer to that. So I asked the town attorney if he had a sense, because this is what he does. He's a specialist in this. And what he said is he has no idea how many can fit, but if they've got this far, they can probably fit. And this agreement represents kind of the last lease that we would likely see here, that the market is consolidating, not growing at this point. So that's what I have for you. The one thing I will point out, I just need to make sure you understand that you are used to seeing agreements in which we ask for commercial insurance holding the town harmless and naming us as an additional insured. We pushed for that language to learn that AT&T is self-funded risk. They manage their risk internally. So that's why there's some language there that you would not necessarily be used to seeing in our agreements. The lawyer points out it really is a political question as to whether or not you're going to trust that a company with a $125 billion portfolio can handle. Yep. So I mentioned that.
Any questions or comments? Councilor Pilk.
One clarification. Thank you for adding the access stuff. I see that as called out, that the tenant shall access the premises using the access easement from Bow Street as described in the deed. In section 12, it also talks about the landlord executing a letter granting tenant access to the property substantially in the form attached as Exhibit 12, which looks like a letter saying, hey, we may have to go into your building to get access to this telephone equipment. Who would we be sending that letter to? Is that from the town to Maine Water Company saying you might not be able to make a call from the water tower that day?
So I'm not 100% sure. I know that the whole document went through legal review. I'm not exactly sure how that works.
Okay. If that winds up turning into anything that you think might be an issue with access, if you don't mind bringing it back.
Oh, absolutely.
Thanks.
Absolutely.
Anything else?
So we're being asked to vote on this document, and it could be changed. Or not.
So I
think it's around, you're saying that there's still a little bit of back and forth happening.
Yeah, it's tweaking language that is not terms. So one thing that you could do here, which we had at one point, was to execute a lease in substantially similar terms.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just have not heard back from them on the final.
Right.
Do we know the timeline of that?
No, I have not heard from him yet this week, which is unusual.
Yeah, pretty much hurry up, hurry up.
Wait.
Yeah.
I do
Crickets.
know that they need this executed by the end of May in order to meet their other deadlines.
Okay, just, but even after it's
Raising the
executed, it's like, okay. I know Verizon took a long time to build their stuff.
Do I change how this is
Yeah,
written?
yeah.
Yeah, if you'd like to, yeah.
And so what would the language be?
Do you want to add something around substantively similar?
I trust
Yeah.
the language.
We don't have to.
So-
If you would like to, or if council would like to add. In the last motion, there was the language around this lease or something substantively similar, which we could add, or we don't have to, so.
Just as it is, I mean, it allows our town manager to figure out the rest of it.
Well, I've raised the question, and now I'm happy to vote on it as it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So you may go ahead if you are ready. We can,
Be it ordered that the town manager be authorized to execute a structure lease agreement with the new Singular Wireless PCS LLC to lease a portion of town-controlled property located at 55 Quarry Lane.
Second.
any other thoughts? All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. New Singular Wireless. Now we'll move on to our public comment period, part 2, for folks who are virtual. Is there anybody who would like to speak?
So we have one person on who has not raised his hand.
Okay, we will open public comment and then close public comment. All right, since we are pushing other business number 1 to our next meeting, this means we are moving right to our FY '27 municipal budget workshop with Jessica.
Yep, my hunch is that she missed that we were moving on.
Well, in the meantime,
Just a minute break.
we did not speak about the finance committee. We pushed that, waiting for you, if you would like to give an overview of our discussion about the budget process.
I have some prompts. What specifically are you looking to go over?
I think, as I recall, we were going to talk about kind of a two-prong approach. Is that what you were
Oh,
looking
okay.
for?
I'll be completely honest, I put this on the agenda pretty much right after the finance committee, and then also,
No, I just wasn't sure what we were talking about. So I think the main point is that the committee had some lengthy discussion as to the timing of fiscal '27's reality coming up in less than 2 months, and the response to public comment around long-term planning and controlling of expenses and/or growing revenues. And we felt like there's some things that we can do for fiscal '27, but that in the long term, we'd be better suited embarking on sort of a deeper dive on the budget, both the revenue and expense side, and seeing how we can best make some long-term course corrections to ensure financial stability and making sure that we're meeting the needs of the town in a fiscally responsible way. Is that where you're driving at?
yes, thank you.
Any thoughts or comments on that?
I like the idea about looking ahead, because it feels like any substantial changes we would want to make to the budget at this point almost feels like it's too late, because it's kind of like, oh, all of a sudden, we're adding a pile of money or yanking a pile of money. So I like the idea about looking ahead and saying we should be thinking about future years' budgets now or soon after.
And I think what we kind of discussed during the finance committee is like, yes, I saw Jessica, you were nodding, like, you can still make changes. We can, of course. But staff brought us a budget that had already gone through a pretty rigorous process. And to make further cuts will certainly have consequences. And so to be very thoughtful about those consequences, I think we need to have this process that Councilor Pillsbury is describing of.
So we start as soon as June 1, start looking at it and have meetings every
Yes.
week that we.
So I will say that the draft process, I was just looking at this with Sophie earlier today, is the July Finance Committee meeting. We look at a timeline with a work plan to have this conversation so that we're not being, we're not responding to the year. We're actually considering long-term goals and direction.
Right, and you got to be careful because as a board, we change in November.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, but, I mean, I think that there's a way for us to be looking at long-term impacts and the corresponding potential service level corrections that may be a result of that. And these are serious discussions that warrant deliberation and data and thoughtfulness. And to do it in a compressed timeline when we're trying to launch a budget for July 1 seems less than ideal. And I think that recognition of the fiscal stewardship that we have, we need to start that process earlier and feed it in. And I think this gives us a better chance to evaluate decisions, go out to bid or get requests for information around services, and just be very thoughtful around this and be in a better position as we go to launch fiscal 28 and beyond's budget, to be better positioned to provide the services that our community wants and needs with an eye toward how we grow or pull back in a thoughtful manner in future years.
Yeah, and with the understanding, yes, council changes over time, and also recognizing that kind of the fiscal responsibility is a through line, so we can help set up those conversations. I mean, they can always, future council in 10 years can say no.
Yeah, no, I agree. We need to do this.
Yeah.
I've been saying that for 9 years, but.
Well, now we have a finance committee. Took us a second to get that. Councilor Smith.
Just to say, I agree with this idea of trying to take a really thoughtful approach at going forward. I think as we go through the details of this budget, I know we've had some public comment already, some feedback from folks, which I welcome. My concern is that a lot of what we've seen identified by certain folks in communications are things that we have already made the intentional choice to invest in. And really made plans based around those investments. And while I do think that we have a course correction that's coming, the idea that we just need to start throwing things off the ship in order to get down to a certain level, I think is too short-sighted and puts us in a worse position going forward. And I think we've talked about the fact that part of the rebound of the budget of the last couple of years are because we kept things very low in terms of growth in COVID, and we have had to catch up with that in some really uncomfortable ways for folks, and it's taken people by surprise. So I also wouldn't want to artificially cut things out of this budget that we're just going to have to go back and catch up from later on. And so having the structural conversations and making those clear decisions about the course rather than trying to do something in an emergency manner that has unintended consequences for the next council and the next budget.
Yeah, and it also, going through a more elongated process allows more touch points with the community, more ways and methods of communication around the sort of budget realities that we're faced with, right? I mean, there's certain things like we have collective bargaining that locks us into contracts for X number of years. I mean, there's complexities to the town municipality, and I think this allows us to do deeper dives on areas of substance and communicate that to the public and also educate ourselves, have staff educate us as we go along. So I think that it brings another level of transparency and accountability, so.
I agree. And two other things that you may have mentioned, but I was checking in with Sophie, but looking also, trying to understand what are mandatory, what we have to do.
Yep.
So understanding what we're required to do and being informed and knowledgeable and transparent about that. And then also looking at our revenues, because those have decreased. And we see it this year with the revenue sharing also decreasing. So, you know, the budget impact is greater when we have less revenue as well. So.
Yeah, try to get to a self-sustaining level, right?
Jessica, did you capture that $200 a month on the cell lease? Have you already factored that in?
I had the on-demand playing in my office, and I was writing it down.
All right, so tonight we were going to review departments, a list of departments.
Yep.
Let's see. So we were going to start with the council budget.
So in the big document, the town council is on page 204.
Thank you. I was trying to get there and you got
no
there
worries.
faster. Thank you.
I got your back.
And so, I know, thank you. To remind folks, this is line by line. Real fun.
You don't have to do it.
We don't have to, but I think we'll do what we did with the capital budget, where we're asking questions as we review each department.
Is there a bit of an overview? Because, right, like we consolidated fire and rescue this year. So on the surface, looking at that, you'll see percent increases, but there's a rationale behind it. Are there some high-level things to help level set so that when it just helps us frame our discussion so people aren't over-indexed on why they go up 200%? Oh, well, it's because we consolidated.
So if you go back to the Excel spreadsheet I sent you Sunday night, I think, we have manually gone back and done the addition year over year, so you can see where some of that is. Otherwise, most of the fire department is around staff payroll, because changes in service expectations or staffing levels, it's taken us a little while to catch up with that in the budget. Jessica, the other piece I saw are some of the equipment lines and repair lines are up.
I meant both for our benefit, but also for the recording, just to.
Yeah. No, I know we've gotten a comment about the fact that our software couldn't go back and consolidate that for us. So it looks like a $600,000 increase, but we're really absorbing.
So my thought is, as we, I believe the memo you put together talks about some of the big trends for FY27. I know that wasn't added to the agenda materials, but will be for the next meeting to be a bit more of a high-level view, especially for the public. As we go through sort of account by account, I think we can get into some of those, here's what you're seeing, and here are the major factors. Is that kind of what you're hoping for?
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So looking at the council budget on page 204.
I can jump in.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm not sure what you want my role to be for you tonight.
Yes,
So,
I'm
I mean,
sorry.
nope, that's fine. I certainly don't mind just giving a quick couple sentences
I think
if
that would
that
be
would help kick it off.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Sorry, I wasn't sure where the direction was going. So yeah, for town council, it's, 2026 budget was 288,650. We're moving to 296,900, primarily due to, auditing fee increase of about $6,000, and that's due to the GASB 75 report that needs to be done about every other year. So every other year, you see an increase in this line to accommodate for that reporting that we need to do. And that would be the biggest change in this department.
Can I jump in now?
You can jump in whenever you would like.
Two questions. I think they're easy ones. For community support,
Yes.
2025, it was 0, and then now it's 55,000. I assume we just recategorized from somewhere else in the budget, and now we
Yes.
put it under town council because it's more discretionary for us?
Yes, so in 2025, there was Human Service Agencies segment, and council wanted kind of, rather than have it listed by agency, and have it be like established amounts by agency, they wanted just a lump sum to be able to then go through an outside agency process, an application process, in order to determine where a set dollar amount of funding would go, instead of it being, exponentially growing year over year
Makes
with
sense. I
people
remember that.
asking.
Yeah, thank you.
So,
This is our slush fund, I don't want to say that, but is that what it is?
It's your discretionary money to allocate to any outside agencies that may come forth when you choose the process that you want to choose to review their applications.
Yeah, and so, how much did we spend last year? What was it?
55,500.
55, and now it's 59? What?
That is correct.
Is there a reason, I mean, it's $4,000. What was the increase?
I'm trying to remember. That one, I think I'm going to have to run back to my notes.
was it a
and get it in.
reallocation of where Tedford had been
Yes,
paid
thank you.
for out of police?
I knew there were no new ones,
We
yes.
felt like that was,
Yes.
because when
Tedford
we-
was in the
police budget.
police budget, and we moved
thought we
them.
were
Contracting.
kind of buying into a collaborative, but it really is just community support, and it belongs here. So that's why we moved it here. The 55,500 is not, you still have money left over. If you recall, you went through that process and you held some off.
My other question was legal services. We have been overspending that in the last few years, but
Yeah.
I see we're back to trying to get it back down in the next budget. Is that reasonable, or should we budget a higher number if we're going to spend it?
We actually talked about that, because at the
We did.
first cut of this, we were,
I had proposed an increase.
yeah, you did propose an increase. I really felt like we have litigation that is coming to the front, and where Jessica and I kind of ended up with that was, we're not sure what is going to happen with that. We have a general idea of what litigation will cost, and we are contemplating at the end of the year, what we're planning to do is recommend to you, when we look at our fund balance, to actually slide money in to cover some of the exposure and liability for that litigation. So not come back to the taxpayers and say, the reason we've been overspending has everything to do related with that litigation. So we're kind of funneling it in to an end point, which may or may not result in us needing to spend a lot of money. So instead of going to the taxpayers this year and saying, we might need it, the thought is perhaps we should simply allocate some onto the general ledger
Yeah.
as an asset for an impending liability.
Similar to how we handled the senior property tax rebates last year, where we took the unspent money from the program last year and put it on the balance sheet to be able to fund future exposure. It's a similar concept.
But we don't have unspent money.
We don't have
We've
unspent money. We'll be
overspent.
pulling it from fund balance if that's the recommendation we're able to bring forth. Yeah. So when I come to you at the end of the year and say, this is what we have in fund balance, we recommend putting all of it into capital. It'll be, we recommend putting some into capital and some for this purpose.
So in a way, we're not budgeting for it, but if it looks like we
We're
need it,
hedging,
we'll
yeah.
find a place to get it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
I mean, I'm not opposed if council wants to just put money into it and call it good, but it would be an act on your part to put it back in the budget if that's not how you want to handle it.
Okay.
What are the PACs?
It's a good question. Go for it. Or-
Yeah, it's another organization similar to GPCOG, and it's another governing body that we work with for subsidizing opportunities for work, right?
Yeah, so let me put a little bit finer point on that.
I love that.
It is the Portland Area Comprehensive Transportation System. So the state is divided into metropolitan planning organizations that are the pass-through for a lot of state and federal grant funds. So they want us to plan regionally. That money goes through PACs. It then ends up on state plans. It's how we leverage a lot of our infrastructure grant money. And this assessment is created based on the governing documents. I'm not versed in what those are, but I bet you are.
I'm sorry, I sit on the board. I know about it. It's basically helps like planning our transportation initiatives. It's a policy board that works with Maine DOT to create plans for funding and projects. There's a lot of sort of technical assistance that goes on with that, which is, I'm sure, what we're paying for.
Yeah, so while there is a policy and governance board and there's a lot of helping us work collaboratively across municipal lines, this is actually an entity that we get a lot of value from, Chip. They do a lot of the technical assistance with Earl paving. I would not, and Brett, it is not like a membership organization. It really is kind of integrated into operations.
Okay.
Jessica, the $150 in other wages that we don't seem to budget but keeps coming up in actual,
Yeah.
what is that?
It's actually, it's a, for secretarial coverage with Sharon Coffin
Oh,
for
okay.
different aspects. Yeah.
So is there a reason why we don't budget for it?
It's, no, to answer you, we certainly could. It's kind of one of those where Sharon started in one capacity, right, and filled other capacity roles, and now no longer necessarily does this capacity and focuses more over here. But in the background, not all the system was updated or changed, so it comes through here as an actual. In a lot of cases, I would transfer that out to where it should be. It just, timing-wise, I have not done it yet this year, and
Okay.
so it is just sitting there.
Okay.
For a very long answer to a
So do
quick question.
you spread her time amongst many accounts?
No, it was primarily kind of between two,
Okay.
between, because she used to do council
It's gonna be
and
down
now does coastal water. Yeah, so she, Board of Appeals maybe or something. There's,
No, I mean,
yeah. So
Right, we're not gonna
we just have it
fund
under one
the
stipend, but
housing or the
for some reason, one
tax
always
rebate
comes through here.
program.
I don't know if that's there. I think it's somewhere else.
Is it?
Yeah, Jessica, but I thought that was somewhere else.
Are we ready to move on to the town manager? Page 205?
Yeah, so the only thing you see different here are with the wage lines,
I thought it was part of-
and
I thought
that
it was part of
is,
that.
as discussed at our initial meeting, just the reflection of any, as with, I'll just make a blanket statement now, that as with any and all wage lines, it's encompassing of any step increases, COLA wage increases, either contractual or budgeted for, and any adjustments in, with positions, whether it be, vacancies or refills.
And we will, as we walk through, we can tell you where we've shifted folks. There aren't very many this year, but we can do that.
And this is 2 staff under here.
There are 2 staff members under here.
Did we used to have tech repair in a different category in 2025 before?
Yeah, we moved IT under the manager's office. And we consolidated several of the kind of miscellaneous lines here, is my understanding.
Yeah, this was more the, there were a lot of things that would come up that would want to be worked on or done that didn't necessarily fit into the budget that we had under our other tech lines. So this was an pointed appropriation last year to be able to meet some of the concerns of both council and the town manager's office of what we might need for technology, caught off guard technology changes that we didn't have budgeted for elsewhere that would kind of fit that.
Also, some of the discretion, where there's so much software out there, I did not want a proliferation of departments doing different things. So this is a lot of the software.
Yeah.
And as I've said before, we've kind of stopped spending in the town manager's office, except for wages. I'm not working for free. But
Good numbers compared to.
part of the reason that you're seeing $3,600 unspent in software is that we have put a marked kind of, not freeze. Freeze is a bad word, but
We're
We're
just
not-
being cautious.
yes.
Prudent, maybe?
Prudent, I like that.
Are we ready to move to finance? 206.
Yeah, so you see, as mentioned, some of the wage adjustments, realignment between some of the travel or the train component, just to encompass some staff in-state training opportunities with some of the associations, and an increase to the registry fees. They changed their fee structure. So this is just kind of building a little bit of room for when we have to file liens or documents with the registry. This also, the big line is computer maintenance, the 3480. That is a reflection of the transition of our software to being cloud hosted with the provider versus on-premise. So you do see an operating cost increase, but you'll see, or you won't see an increase in capital expenditures to replace that server when it comes time, so.
This is, okay.
Server, yes, plural, because there were multiple servers with this program.
So that's a one-time,
No, this is
The
the new
160
annual, the new
geez.
annual amount.
okay.
But you won't have the replacement of the server expense that would have been due within the next 36 months.
And do you have any idea how much that would have cost?
The last server that we bought was about 35,000.
Yes, and I think these are a little more.
And that has nothing to do with the
Yeah,
the programming part, that's just the shell.
structure, yeah. Yeah.
So the software costs $50,000 or $60,000 per year?
Yes. Increase.
Oh, increase.
Yeah.
can you talk a little bit, because there's a shift that in also what you're getting from the cloud-hosted, I mean, we were a
Yeah.
holdout. We were a holdout to go to the cloud.
Yeah.
Because we
They are
didn't wanna
moving all their
spend-
clients. I mean, it would have been inevitable over time. Like, I mean, I think we would have had maybe another couple years. But they are in the process of transitioning everybody to cloud hosting. It's ultimately just as secure, if not more, than an individual self-hosted server. And we're going to see an expansion in the services that are available to the public and how it looks to the public on our website. So there will be a consolidated portal for viewing and paying your taxes. It'll be a real-time feed into the system. So if you are a business, right, that you pay taxes here in town, but you also are doing work, so you have permit fees or other things that permit's a bad example to give, but let's say you have some licensing fees that you have to pay as well. You're going to be able to see under your login, your client login, all the unpaid balances that are due on your account and be able to keep track of it. You'll be able to set up payment plans to more easily, it'll just be more easily accessible. I still, as a note to everybody, I accept any and all money you want to give to the town of Freeport, and we'll take it at any time. You know, you can always enter into multiple payments with me instead of, one payment. But it'll become easier. You'll be able to set up an auto pay. You'll be able to get text alerts that tell you when something is due or coming due, or if you're not comfortable with auto pay, you can do an auto text that will say, hey, this is coming due. So it'll be a lot more engaging for residents. We're looking at a portal as well that will be able to notify residents. Hopefully, we're waiting on the pricing of this to see what it will be. But we have some great opportunities that will open up going to this model.
And for employees, because the system also runs all of our payroll.
Yes.
So there are some things that were important for employees.
Yes, so employees will be able to log into this portal as well and see all of their personal information. They'll be able to view their historical pay stubs. They'll be able to see their W-2s. They'll be able to simulate wage pay stubs, so they'll be able to see if I make this deduction change, how does that impact my pay? So there's a lot of growth and flexibility with this.
They can request time off so that we are not
Submit
chasing that.
time.
They can,
Yeah.
we can, as we learn how to work with it, there are timesheets that
Yep.
people can fill out. So as we look at some of the other choices we're making around not expanding some of the administrative support to department heads, part of that is taking advantage of using technology to be able to centralize our payroll system as
Yep.
well, which was kind of important.
So it kind of seems like we don't have an option. We have to do this.
There will be a time when this
Yeah.
will not be, would not have been an option, which is why we opted in, because we knew it was going to happen. And
What are we going to do with the existing server infrastructure?
well, I was notified by them that it's at its end of life and was going to have to be updated within this next capital plan. I would have used the computer money to have to upgrade the server. So it will go away.
Is there any value there?
No, it was at its end of life and done.
So Min will decommission it.
Min will decommission it, yeah.
And sometimes when we decommission things, it becomes great holding for other parts and pieces to rebuild desktops and other things like that.
I'm always amazed with what Min can do with equipment, so I'm sure he'll find components to repurpose.
So Jessica, when you're talking about what the taxpayer sees in terms of that login, so personal property and real estate would
That's
all
correct.
be there.
Yep.
So that does sound like an advantage, although
Yeah,
an expensive change.
yeah. I mean, it's a perk to a change that was going to happen.
Yeah.
For sure.
I just have a question on the percent change column.
Yeah.
Is that the percent change between the budget proposed and the projection or of 26 or the budget of
I believe it's
26?
off of the 26 revised budget.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to assessing, 207.
Similar items within the assessing department as finance. The 13% increase for contracted services is the increase in the Vision platform and Vision software that is cloud hosted. And then my standard statement with the salary changes.
Didn't you say we had to go through a commercial reassessment?
So
Yeah.
Mint has a capital
Yep.
account.
Oh, okay.
That should cover that.
Can you explain con service?
Contracted service, that's the
Okay.
Vision platform. So we contract with Vision for our hosting.
So that does all of the public facing and calculation. It holds all the data for assessing.
Now, do you know, like, how often do we go out to bid on, I mean, how many players in a specified software space like this are there? Do we ever go back out and price compare? Is there any instance where we'd be able to, do we pay by like license, or is it data volume, or my point being, is there any way for us to look creatively at this and potentially as a shared service within peer community for some of this stuff?
So I don't know about that. I don't know how you separate. I've worked in both of the platforms that I'm aware of existing. In my previous community, we were at one. We went out to bid for assessing services because we needed a reval. And what we learned is that there are two types of software that people primarily use in Maine. Now, somebody can call me tomorrow and prove me wrong because it's been a while, but it was Trio and Vision. And they give you an initial quote based on the size and complexity of your community. Depending on what aspects of the software you use, you pay more or less. So we have a very robust personal property. We're paying for that. Min needs that because we are a very robust collector of personal property. So I don't know. A lot of these municipal software folks are smart. And if we went and worked, for example, with Yarmouth, because we share a lot with Yarmouth, right? I don't know that, in fact, I'm quite sure you can't separate into two home units within the software.
But would there be a situation where you could go to GPCOG and say, hey, how many people are using this? Is there a way for us to go and say, hey, guess what? Trio, or what was the other one?
Vision.
Vision, would you like all of Cumberland County's business? And is there a 10% discount that you could offer, and we could standardize implementation? Yes, community, I mean, I don't know, but.
We could absolutely ask that question. And we'd be happy to, Jessica would be happy to ask that question of GPCOG. I think it's a little difficult because you tend to have, much like you have Munis communities and Trio communities, and I think even Northern Data is done at this point.
Yeah, I
It's
was gonna
gone.
say, I don't believe
everything kind of gets built up around those systems. And so I don't know that you'd be able to say everybody in Cumberland County will do X. Trio tends to be a system that smaller communities really want to use. It integrates with the other stuff that they do, which tends to be more smaller. But we can ask the question. My experience with Trio, Tyler, and Vision has been they know exactly what they have, and I'm not sure that they work really hard to help us save more money.
We're very small, like in the case of Tyler compared to Trio, we're a very small client of Tyler, but we're a very long-standing client of Tyler. And so there comes some consideration with like they gave us 6 months of this software before our budget so that we could, implement it and get things rolling without there being a budgetary impact, right away. And it becomes difficult, like Sophie was saying, because the community size and needs are so vastly different that it's not a one-size-fits-all, where you can say, like, for fuel, right? Everybody needs fuel to run their vehicles, so it makes sense to have one big bid with that, or the opportunity for one big bid for that. Software is a little more subjective because even with the modules that we don't have all of the modules with Tyler. There's at least 4 or 5 that I can think of that we don't use, that I'm probably pretty sure South Portland does, or, you know what I mean? So you have a lot of wiggle room in that regard with them too.
But I think we can ask the question.
Yeah, sure. I also think, there is a regional conversation about regionalization, and I think that is part of it as well, so.
Yeah, the answer to some of this stuff may be no, but if we don't ever ask the question,
Absolutely.
we won't know.
Just I have a sort of general question that goes across multiple departments in terms of employee travel.
Sure.
I'm noticing that in some cases there are incremental increases, probably due to anticipated increased costs. But in some cases, it looks like we haven't been using that budget, but we're still carrying that line item across rather flat.
Yep.
And I'm wondering if has been conversation around, do we need to do that in certain departments if those funds are not being spent?
Yeah, go ahead. I certainly have had the conversations with department heads in review of their budget to determine what's needed. Behind the scenes, I definitely get in most cases, a list of who and where they intend to attend trainings. In some cases, that does just line nicely with keeping something flat, and then in other cases, when it remains unspent, it could be due to any number of reasons, whether the anticipated expenditure didn't happen because we lost the employee, or workloads didn't allow for it to align right to go, or there's a lot of.
If we're seeing spikes in costs in other areas, employee travel is one of the first things that we pull back on. In this particular case, Min was able to find one of the things he needed for his certification that he thought he was going to have to travel out of state for. He was able to do that virtually, which saved a bunch of money. But he still has certification credits that he has to get in the coming year. So we
Right.
try to
So
look
in
ahead
some
and
right,
base
so-
it, but also when things are getting tight, when we're seeing gas spiking and diesel at over $5 a gallon, and we're having a hard time locking in a new price, those types of things cause us to kind of contract, not just in the department that's impacted, because at the end of the day, we want the bottom line to be good.
Would you ever, would you consider centralizing professional development? Sure. And having because I'm wondering, I believe in professional development. I don't know that I just believe in carrying a set amount in everyone's budget for it, because I think there should be a plan. Yep. And I think with good professional development, it also means you're developing that person with an eye toward where they're going to go, but also what they can bring back for skill development to the team. I don't know if it's worth thinking about it more centrally. I know you probably have specific people that need certification every year for a license. But it may be, I just wonder how department heads look at it and they say like, oh, well, I've got this amount and so I need to find something that is that amount rather than what would really move my employee to the next level.
Yeah, I would argue that department heads don't look at it that I have this much and what can I fill it with. In the case of like the fire department, I know that they have X number of per diems or full-time, depending on the year and the level, that will be attending the firefighter 1 or firefighter 2 or whatever academy, right? So they have a schedule of who needs to attend to get certification or credits. And I think I use that as an example, but I know in my budget, I can tell you I know where either I or my staff are going and what the anticipated cost is and all of that. And that's why you see some minor changes. And then in other cases, there's really not a lot that changes. If it's local and it's just the fee for attendance, a lot of times that doesn't change. What changes is the ability to get to where the training is. So when you see a flat amount, it's not just because it's a flat amount being carried forward. It could just be that class is $1,000 and that's, they don't anticipate an increase in that and it's in Yarmouth. So that's all it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't feel any department head just says I have $2,000 and that's what I am gonna make sure I fill.
So
No, go ahead.
So I was just going to say, I think we have a few different types of training and development that happen. I think when you look at police and fire in that training and development, we're actually buying seats on state required training platforms to get mandatory training for licensure so they can continue to do their work. That's easy. It is a factor of X number of employees times Y price. We also, as we're turning people over, because we are going through a shift, I don't mean to point at you with my pen, going through a shift in the workforce where we're bringing people in, and when we bring them in and they're hired, there are certain minimum criteria there that they have to meet in the first 1 to 3 years. So that's really clear. And then we have we've gone beyond certification, we've gone beyond, in Jessica's department, there are legal updates that we need to send people to, cash handling updates, whatever the auditor kind of tags as or GASB tags as the topic de year, whatever. The other thing that we do is within the evaluation process, as part of our goal setting, we talk about what are the things that this person needs, where are they aspiring to get to, where do we need them to go. So for the fire department, as an example, we have 2 people that are now waiting in line for funds to free up so that we can send them to firefighter 1, not firefighter 1, fire officer 1, fire officer 2. So that's down in Maryland, and the terms, it's federal program, and the terms change on a dime. Sometimes we have to pay more, sometimes we pay less, sometimes we just pay for a meal ticket. So we never quite, it changes. The other piece is like with department heads, I have a department head who came to me and said, I really want to dive into project management. So much of what we do as a team, I think I could bring added value to the team. And they have gone off and we put that in for a certificate program over 2 years, I think, and picked a class here or there and has brought that back to the team. But it's part of their evaluation and professional development plan. So what I don't see is, oh, I've got $1,000. I think I'm going to take a training here because I'd like to go to Texas this year. I am seeing some real thought go into that. I'm seeing more attention being paid to the virtual platforms so that we're not having to pay to go out of state. Freeport is unique. We put limits on how many times people can go out of state, which is kind of interesting. But we do that, so we're kind of limiting some of the conference travel. So I hope that gives you a little bit, but the idea of centralizing and having people having a double check on how we're using that, that's something to think about, sure. I mean.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. I didn't make the comment necessarily because, oh, I've got $1,000, how am I going to spend it?
Yeah.
It's more of, geez, you know what? I could find something to spend $1,000 on, but what would be really impactful is if I had $2,500 and I could do this professional development opportunity. I don't want us to miss that because developing our staff is really important for creating the next generation of the people who are going to lead this town.
Yeah.
And I don't want us to just say, well, in this budget, that's what we've got. I think there's an argument to be made that centrally, if you had a bucket of money or some of this pooled, you could say, okay, well, someone from the finance team, this would be impactful to go through this program next year. And then the following year, maybe it's somebody out of Public Works or, you know what I mean?
So absolutely, I think that's great. I think that actually would add a layer to what we're doing right now. Like, outside of that project, that one project management plan, most all the rest of them are really focused on things they need to absolutely learn the job as it sits today, mostly put on by Maine Municipal or some affiliate group associated with that. Or those, I have a platform so I can keep my certifications without having to go anywhere. What I would love to do is think about that some more and think how that might work here. And maybe we could talk about that when we are reviewing the budget. Would that?
Yeah. No, I'm not advocating for a change here. I'm just saying that as we look structurally, there's a real cost to turnover and there's a real cost to people leaving. So, and a small investment incrementally over the years can make a big difference.
Yep. Totally agree. Ready to go to codes?
With that, yeah, let's move over to codes. So 208.
Here you just have some salary adjustments.
Can you just clarify the computer maintenance that we see in, like, is that
Yeah.
the department has X amount, you like divvy it up by number of machines and the anticipated?
No, that computer maintenance, at least under code enforcement, is for the iWorks software
Okay.
for permitting. Yeah, typically if they have a computer maintenance account, that is a specific software.
Got it.
Like under finance, it's Munis, under assessing, it's Vision, under code enforcement, it's iWorks.
No one's caught them all together, huh?
Well, I mean, I'll be honest, Tyler Technologies does have a few of these. They don't have the assessing side ironed out. They do have a permit application process. I don't know that, I haven't looked into it in totality. I've sat in on a couple webinars about it when we were contemplating between iWorks and something else. I don't know, at that time, it was not as
Robust.
friendly,
or- yeah.
user-friendly, not even necessarily robust. It was something new Tyler was getting into. Or a new they would probably argue with me that it's not a new module. I would say it was new exposure to Freeport as a consideration. And iWorks just felt like a easier public transition to the process. But yeah, we do look at those, but, you know, it's.
Right. And there is also the, if everything's in one, when I was selling computers, if you have, you know, you could buy an Apple, if anything went down, you were buying a new Apple, and if you bought something that was IBM compatible, it was like an erector set. Oh, you have the video card,
Yeah.
you have a motherboard, and it made it cheaper.
Yeah.
Moving on to town clerk and elections, 209.
Talk about the ballot clerk.
Yeah. We have a presidential, not a president, we have a gubernatorial election, which increases the time and, oh, wait,
As well as a minimum wage increase.
there we go.
Yeah.
Can you
it's a-
talk about what goes into that calculation? Because I don't understand what we're paying for.
We pay, those people that are volunteers
Yeah.
get paid minimum wage.
Yeah.
And how do we set the number of folks? Like, is there a statute that says you need X amount of people per? Sorry, I'm curious as to how all this works and what goes into it.
So statutorily, there's not a number. I need logistically, let's say, 20 clerks for an election. I need to have my Democrat and Republican balance. So we do the best that we can, and we fill in with unenrolleds. But there's not a set number, but I need to have enough coverage to handle the flow with a Democrat and Republican balance.
Yeah, having been in a community that tried to short the number, and you are wrapping people around, you get complaints to the state telling you don't have enough and to do better next time. The other piece with this, though, I don't want to lose the calculation of absentee balloting is something that we're really shifting to in this community. We get lots of people that vote that way. When we do absentee balloting, we actually have days where we have to bring ballot clerks in, and if you're going to open a ballot and vote it early, you have to have a minimum number of people, and it has to be balanced, Republican, Democrat, and so there's that aspect of it. For coming from a community that had much larger population, probably equal number of voters, this is on target for where we were. There's also a need, as the microscope is on the election process, I'm noticing we're doing more training of ballot clerks, which again is paid because they're an employee. And so all of that combined equals a number. The other piece that Chris has is when you have volunteers who are being paid, but they're still volunteers. When you have that, we're dealing with a lot of folks who might be retired. And so to fill X number of spots, you might need Y number of people, and you've got to still train them, and you still got to keep them invested in part of the process to ensure that we have enough when we need them. Is that?
No, it's very helpful. Thank you.
Yeah.
These numbers cover 2 elections, right? Both November and June?
Correct, yes.
Thanks.
What is driving the increase in supplies? Same answer? Is it?
Ballots.
Yep.
Ballots? Yep. And that, Chris, does that include the, no, you don't have to get up again. Does that include the programming of the ballot? Yeah, so it's not just the paper ballot, it's the tech that we have to send the ballot away and we get the stick back to be able to use the counters.
Makes sense.
And we also lease our machines. There we go. You're going to learn more than you wanted to.
I don't think that's possible.
All right, moving on to, where are we? General admin, page 210. Our goal is to get through a few more of these, just to let everybody know.
So in looking at this budget, it's just an alignment of the standard wage changes we talked about. We adjusted with the town report, with it being done in-house versus being outsourced. So this is just the printing component. There's also, sorry, I'm trying to remember what the equipment rental was. I may have to get back to you on that one. But just some minor adjustments based on the reclassification or the enhancement of the general administration function to include both HR and communications.
Is the postage number, I mean, the price of postage just keeps going up.
It does.
Have we made conscious decisions to decrease mailings, or how's the budget stayed roughly the same? No, like, are we just mailing less?
No, I would say we've actually started mailing more.
Different types of
with
mailings?
notices that have had to go out. But we have a meter, so we get a reduction to some extent on the rate, as well as just, I think really just being mindful. There's a lot that we used to mail that we don't have to. We used to do a lot of vendor AP checks, more and more going to EFT. So there's savings on some aspects, but there's increases in others, both on the price side and the alternative, I'll call them alternative mailings that are going out.
Great.
As
thanks.
well as, I think actually one of the lines within town council allots for some postage increase for specialty mailers, whether it be district notices or things like that, that weren't necessarily part of what we need for operational postage.
In the town report reduction, is that just printing fewer copies, or is that savings in design?
In design, because with communications now, the design of it's in-house, so this is the reduction of that contracted service, and this reflects just the physical printing of what's generated.
Okay.
I'm trying to bounce around to get to accounts that are in the room.
I mean, I have a list I can take you right down. If we wanted to go to page 212, that's the next.
We want to skip the ones that you have, Jess?
Oh, I thought we
trying-
were doing all of those.
Yeah.
Well, our
Okay.
reasoning is we have you all the time.
You do.
So we're going to try and, I think so, planning.
Yep.
So that's page 231. So folks, we'll jump to 231. We'll go back again, just to be very clear, this is based on our plan for who will be here for what meeting. So the rest that we just skipped, we will go back to for our next workshop.
So in looking at page 231, really what you have here
Sorry.
is the change in wages.
And that's 9.6, what's impacting that percentage?
It will be it could be a step change. Yeah, usually if it's larger than the COLA, it's because someone has a step change
So we
because
have-
they're in the early part of the pay scale.
We have
Okay.
3 people with step changes.
Yep.
in the budget.
Okay. And then we'll go through committees.
Yeah, you guys can do
Are you wanting at the same time as planning to do codes? Or is that a different?
We did codes.
Did we? Oh, yes, we did, sorry, my bad.
Any other questions on planning? All right, going down to Board of Appeals.
232?
Okay.
Time.
Conservation Commission, yeah, Jessica, it's late, so I'm tired, and I would love it if you could explain that 20% increase, because there's a reason behind it.
On the conservation?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's the inclusion of the Marine Conservation Corps
Yeah.
work, which was, I'm getting
No, that's
shaking now.
That's
No, so
FC.
that is correct, and just to pull out, the 2026 actual is 0, because,
Covered by ARPA.
and also they had asked to push their allocation into the next year, because they weren't coming until July. Yeah.
But the projection is still 27,000 for 2026.
Yeah, because that's what we'll move
Yes.
That's what
for that work.
you're gonna, yeah.
Say it again, that's what we're going to,
We're gonna pull that out of expense and put it on the balance sheet as
Okay.
So
essentially a
you'll see it
liability.
as,
Yeah.
yeah.
So the projection for 26 will be 0? at
No,
end
the
of year?
projection, we're gonna act like we spent it. It will be treated like an expense in FY '26. But it will be a shift to the balance sheet because it won't technically get paid until,
okay.
We're accruing it
Till July.
into July.
Okay, but then,
So that we can pay
but
them.
27 also includes another $36,000.
Yeah,
For
so
next year, assuming
So-
that they're earlier in the season next year.
So where is Freeport Conservation Trust funding? Because I thought that's where that was,
I think
because
I was-
July, because in July, they're
You-
going to be using their funding from this year. My understanding is that as part of the collaboration with Freeport Conservation Trust and their request for $25,000
Yes.
to maintain trails, that we were going to try to collaborate more and with work days and not need to spend as much money on the,
that is correct.
Okay,
I
I
was
was
thinking
mistaken.
I
I was like-
misnamed it
I was
Marine
a little
Conservation
concerned.
Corps
Yep.
when it is
Yep.
Freeport Conservation Trust work, yes.
Is this coming out of the $50,000 ARPA money?
No, so this is the recommendation from staff. So we tried the 50,000, we got, we still have a little over half a year to expend on that. And Caroline, we're about halfway expended on that, right? Freeport Conservation
we
Trust, we're about halfway expended on the ARPA money as we would expect. From that, we got the trails evaluation. We got some landowner assistance. We're getting some technical assistance with some town properties and trails, signage work. The recommendation at this point, as you recall, one of the, I think I'm trying to solve a problem that we identified when I first got here, which is that we have all of these trails, some of them are not on conserved land, that we have not been putting funding towards We don't have a plan for how we're going to maintain them or improve them. And we had a group of people who were really stretched, super thin. And so at that point, it was, do we look to increase capacity within the town team, which the way to do that would be to add bodies, which is something that we really didn't necessarily want to take on. So what I am proposing, and this is the first year it hits the actual budget, we started kind of the discussion with the ARPA money, is that we work with the Conservation Trust that has trail maintenance kind of down to a science. But in order to do that, the one-time $50,000 doesn't get us what we need in perpetuity. And I don't know that 25,000 is going to be fair, but it gives us, and they seem willing to take the next year and log what they're doing and see how that works. And Carrie has been good, even when we give allotments, she bills against those allotments. It's not like, here, have money that you, she's showing us what she's doing for it.
So the 27,000 here and the 36,000 here are in addition to the 25,000 and the 25,000 from ARPA
So,
here?
no, the 27, which is actually going to be closer to 30, Earl's going to have to probably kick in a little bit for this year's, oh no, the 30's there. So the 30,000 for this year is going to be held on the balance sheet for the main trails, the main conservation group to come work with Conservation Committee on the trails that they have, quite frankly, been working with Carrie on. Because they're not gonna, they're out of cycle. So next year, they will not be within the fiscal year to expend funds again, because they will have just done it. So the plan here is to put the $25,000 plus some extra work. There's another $11,000 that the commission will still have, plus the 25 for the Freeport Conservation Trust to begin the collaborative effort to maintain the trails within the Freeport Conservation Trust resources. And we should probably have Carrie come in and talk more to you about it, but the idea being, we're looking for a sustainable local option, so we're not at the mercy of where the state group can come in. And we're trying to build that capacity within a resource that already exists within our community.
Maybe offline, so we don't take up too much time, we could get a breakdown of what are we spending for Maine Conservation Corps, what are we spending for FCT, what are we spending for our Conservation Commission
Yep.
in each of the 2 years from operating and from ARPA?
Yeah.
Because what I'm getting at is we have 4 town properties with trails on them, and it seems like we're spending a lot of money on those trails.
So I think we should have an offline conversation.
Great, thank you.
I agree with that level of information, I think would be helpful. Okay, moving on now to shellfish. That's not a lot different.
Yeah, that's just a flat budget.
Understand that this does not include the money that they have come to you and asked for multiple times. I think you have asked, and I have forwarded that ask for some pretty specific outcomes. We just don't have them for here, so it's holding status quo.
So what's the survey?
We just held status quo because we did not have another request.
What do they do with that $9,000? Do we know?
It's designed for them to be able to do surveys. Don't ask me more beyond that, because I don't know what they do. It's designed for them to be able to perform surveys of the flats.
Count the claims.
That's the most I can give you with that. However, I know that it seems over my time here, that's kind of ebbed and flowed with most recent history, the surveys, I don't know whether I want to say not being done or whether there's just not, I'm not sure how it comes to them for them to do the surveys, but they haven't had to recently, I guess.
It's not for the studies.
Not, right, I understand that. yeah.
And so I guess,
I wonder if there is routine stuff that they do, and if it's every year or because it looks like we didn't do it in 2025.
or 2026.
But then there's the 3,500 for projection.
Is that just your placeholder to cover?
In case something comes through,
But
absolutely.
you don't have any notice
I
from
don't
them
have
that
any
they're sitting on an
pending
invoice?
notice of expenditure, yeah.
So I would suggest that we talk to them, because if we're allocating $9,000, well, $10,000, like, if they want to do that project and we feel like it's a good use of resources, I think we could probably time it such that we make installment payments against their budget, because it doesn't seem like they're spending that budget on anything else. I could be wrong, but that's my reading.
Worth asking the question, I agree.
Yeah, so let's write that down so I can ask Charlie, so I don't forget.
Because are there any restrictions on that line item as to what they can use it for?
No, not on this, but I know there are some special revenues set aside for particular testing
The water
that
quality
has
testing,
been getting
right,
used,
yeah,
that's not coming through this. So I don't want to, and I don't mean to try to allude that they're not doing stuff. There are
No.
just multiple funding sources that have opened up, and I know a couple of those grants were new, and so I think they've been using those instead of the operating budget at the time.
And because we've spent so much time talking about the water quality testing, we know that that's happening, but it's not
Yeah.
using nearly the fund balance that we have.
Yeah, that's a special revenue.
I'm just wondering why they haven't used this, and if it would be better for us to reclassify it instead of survey for surveys and studies, or something like that, that they could figure that out.
Okay. All right, moving on to miscellaneous and contingency. How did Snowmobile Club get in there?
They have been.
Because they get license fees. Right. Some of that's funded by the license.
So I think this was one of the ones, did this get moved around a little bit?
Yeah,
the
last
budget?
year it was moved out of, I'm gonna forget where it came from, but I think it was 0601.
It was part of outside agencies at one point.
Yeah.
Cable TV. Tom?
Just to kind of take you through this one really quickly, we have some wage changes and realignments. It looks like a big increase in other wages, but it's really a shift to align what we have in the back end side of our software to move it so that all the part-time assistance is falling now under other wages versus it being, I don't want to necessarily say haphazard, but some people, because of the length of time we've had this software and the length of time we've had people, right? Some employees have a lot of tenure here. Some employees are classified under professional salaries, some are classified under other wages, and it just depends on what the thought process was at the time of their hire, right? So this is looking at everybody within that department and realigning it so that all part-time does show up in other wages and makes it a little cleaner when doing payroll and looking at the budget where things actually fall. So that's just a shift there. There's not actually a huge change in the total budget for that. It's just a shift of accounts. And then there was realignment, reprioritization of some of the costs. The actual increase is only with the salary, so you're talking again about a minimum wage change as well as step and/or COLA changes for staff. The rest of it, the rest of the lines really offset each other because it was a reprioritization, much like you were indicating earlier, Matt. It was a review of what do I actually need for training and travel, and it was prioritized that this year I probably don't need to do this training, but there are other things I need in my budget, so it was realigning those priorities. And that's the biggest change you see
And
there.
this budget is overall at a negative, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Worth calling out.
Thank you, Tom.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. All right, any questions there? The realignment of staff makes sense.
Yeah.
Traffic and parking.
I think they use that primarily for technical support, which we've been switching what they've been working on. So they're getting a lot of technical support through projects that already have budgets. So I don't know whether or not I don't know that they're going to use this even next year, but I don't know if you just want to keep giving them a small budget so that they have money if there is something they want to analyze that isn't
Right.
part of a project or our
Kind of more of
engineering.
like a contingency for them.
Yeah. That's a choice. But that's the reason, they're still very active. They
Yes.
just are active with things that the town has already prioritized and has resources allocated for.
Economic development. So what is included in this and what is this?
So, yeah, I don't know if we want to try to slide this into the TIF, their allowable expenses, or if you don't like that. But Brett has travel and training. This year, we're leveraging those funds for Build Maine centerpiece about how awesome it is to do business in Freeport, which I think is pretty cool. And then he travels on behalf of the town. That he doesn't tend to submit travel slips is a different question. We do still have a liability there. And supplies, just general
Yeah,
things to help him as he does his work.
I'm in favor of putting this in the TIF.
Is his salary coming out of the TIF? Is that why there's no
Yep.
wages here?
I think just to give a little bit of background with it, when initially this position transitioned to the town, it was benchmarked as a transition from an outside source into the town and going to be over a couple years.
Gonna
So
be
that there
all
was
the
not,
town.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
going to be all to the town. But it was structured as such that it wouldn't be a large impact to the general fund in 1 year. It was meant to transition over time. And then we had some changes and we had opportunities for new
renewal.
TIFs
Yep.
and TIF coverage. And so we never had to pull the salary into the general fund like we initially did with year one when the town took on economic development, right? It was, that portion was still, that salary was still covered under the existing TIF, but we were attempting to build a budget without it being a large impact to the tax base. So, and obviously, like I said, with new TIFs coming up, we haven't had to make that transition. So, yeah, it's not a problem to pull that out and put it to the TIF. It's just historically, I mean, 1 year. It was designed to transition into the general fund because we thought that's what was going to happen. So now that we have the TIF for longer than my time here, I'm more than happy to move that into TIF.
And FEDC in the chamber is also coming out of the TIF? In addition to town centers.
FEDC is, yes.
Chamber, yeah, is that. Sustainability Committee.
So the 5,500 is actually the contract for Garbage to Gardens, which it lives here even though it's operating because it started out as a sustainability project, as a pilot. And public education is there to help them, given what their workload is for the coming year around solid waste and some other recycling education. I do think that that is something that they are building a budget to actually use the $3,000 if you fund it.
Does it make sense to continue to have Garbage to Garden live here? Or is that also sort of indicative of the fact that there are some questions about how that operates and maybe it's worth having them continue to analyze that?
I don't think they're analyzing it.
Well, we could ask them to, though.
Yeah, you could.
Because I know we talked about the placement, which we don't have to go into right now, but I'm just wondering if I feel like either they should have an active participation role in that program, or it shouldn't live in their budget. Does that
Is there a
Yeah.
benefit, I mean, a cost benefit that we have to spending this money? You
Well,
know, I mean,
it is because we don't pay for then the weight of all of that food going to.
I
these-
know, but is it $5,000? Is it less than $5,000? How much does that weight, what does that weight cost us?
I would guess it's a lot more than $5,000, but
So even, I haven't even
Probably,
gotten, I haven't even gotten into the weight, but the other thing it does as an owner of EcoMaine, the material that comes out when you compost, the organics, are the same material that is more expensive to go through the plant, and it's good to take that out for the longevity of the plant. It's good to take it out anyway, and ultimately negligible, however, does decrease our tip fee if,
By how much? I mean, that's what we're talking about, right? How much, okay, so how much weight do they take? Do they,
So I don't
for
need-
$5,000, how much weight do we get rid of? I don't need that net.
oh, I can do it right now.
I keep thinking about Rod we shared talking about burning wet lettuce.
Yep.
And how that really is the least efficient thing that they can burn.
Which is why it's considered low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
So just so you know, that's 58 ton.
And what do we pay per ton?
We pay 85, that's what I'm saying. $5,000
Mhm.
that this would equate to
I
per
see.
ton, it would equate to $58. So I really don't believe, I'm sorry, 58 tons. I don't believe that we are garbage to gardening 58 ton a year. I have not dug into that. But ultimately, when we are buying into a system that wants to use waste to energy
Mm-hmm.
and burning, what we've learned over time is taking those wet organics out of the system helps the whole system. So this isn't about taking a ton here, we save so much. It's more about, to be good stewards of the multi-million-dollar investment that we're all on the hook for, we should have some best practices, one of those being encouraging composting. And we live in a community where not everybody can compost. So it's more of a public service. It's not a 1 ton of this equals a savings at the end of the day. It is truly part of a bigger policy discussion and stewardship discussion.
But there is a savings factor.
Absolutely.
So we should identify what that is.
I'll go back and pull the tonnage. I bet Jessica can help me with that.
Yep.
Poor Jessica is gonna yell at me.
All right, we got 3 more
Okay.
sheets. Debt service.
So the increase in debt service here is entirely attributable to the decision to buy a ladder truck.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Okay.
All right. County tax.
We have no control over either of those things. We don't have any control over, we can't get out this year, we can't secede this year, and we have no further.
When can we secede?
I've never done that.
That's a good question. Abatements.
So this is one of the things that Jessica and I are suggesting as a potential thing to do. Again, it doesn't change our actual costs. It just changes whether we are asking taxpayers to pay their taxes this year for $25,000 when we have an overlay that has to get assessed. And one of the things that we look at with that is a thought on Min's part of how vulnerable we are to abatement requests. So this past year, I think we were in the 200.
Right
1
around
to 2.
200,000, yeah.
1 to 2.
Yep. I had projected 152 before the last round came in, so.
So I think what we're saying here is we would simply pay our abatements out of our overlay account, which would be the same as saying that what we're going to add to fund balance is going to be less. So this is the way of, when we say we're nibbling around what ultimately would lapse to fund balance, here are some of the ways we did that. I just want to point them out.
Any lingering questions? So our next budget conversation will include the pieces we did not review tonight.
If folks have questions, it would be awesome to get those. I'm working on a document with Jess right now where we're taking the questions and comments from the public. The questions that are seeking answers, we're writing what we think the answers are, or the explanation. On the comment, I'm kind of looking at those saying sometimes people make comments just for council to hear comment, and it might not actually need a response from us. The goal will be to turn that around as a shared document so you can watch as things get added to it. There is an area in there for me to start adding counselor questions. I have not gotten any other than to kind of help people navigate the book, which I don't think you guys need. I will say that one of the resident comments that we got is that the budget notebook at 248 pages is too long and too complicated. If you're simply looking at dollars and cents, then I can see why that budget book would look really long and complicated. But the budget is a work plan, and it's supposed to, under best practice, it's supposed to give you a sense of what we're paying for, not just how much we're paying. Having said that, Jessica had broken out the general fund budget standalone, which is just the line items, so you have your 30 pages or whatever it is. And then after receiving that comment, we also broke out the transmittal letter. So that is separate. We might want to change those titles to make them more user-friendly for the general public, like line item budget and budget summary, cover sheet or something, just something that might be a little bit more user-friendly. So we actually listen to when people give us feedback, and we're trying to make changes that we can to make this a more useful process for everybody.
Great.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Of